Okay.
And then you're going to copy and paste that into there.
See.
And see my other live feed.
Here. V.
Okay.
Should you
my
control?
Apologies.
All right, and then just.
Okay. So what you're going to have to get is the link from here. So go to the back. Let me go to my phone. There were 2 people there. Okay. So I'm going to share.
I also think you got the camera flipped around.
I'm just give me one thing at a time, son. Copy link. Okay. I want to share to email. And you're going to get that from there.
See. There we go.
Okay, you got it. And post it into that.
All right.
And say apologies. Couldn't figure out how to start the scheduled live stream. Please go to this link. Do you want me to type up the century?
Yeah.
Huh?
I got it. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to live stream. Please go to this link.
Okay.
And I post the link up.
Yep.
There.
And then here I'm going to go to a couple other places.
All right. All right. Hey, Tuscan said great kit. Posting a few other locations that links changed.
Okay, that's a Mandalorian costuming. And then I will go to Mandalorian Mercs.
Rain's picking up.
Good.
All right, and we have 4 people.
Alrighty.
Fixing the link.
And now we'll go here to the live. All right, hear but see but don't hear stuff.
All right.
Okay. All right, Rob, can you hear me?
Hang on. I can do this.
Okay, type, can you hear me now?
Hang on. It's very echoey.
Well, turn off the speakers now on the computer.
All right. Hang on.
All right. My apologies. we had op tested things earlier and proved that we could do the live feed. But turns out that I'm an idiot and I don't know how to start a scheduled live feed. And so I apologize to everyone that was going to the original link. It is my bad. And that's something that I'll have to figure out if I'm going to do this again. So we'll kind of hang out for a little bit. Tubby Tuscan, I can see you. So I'm live streaming from my phone over here. I've got it up on YouTube on my laptop on my left. And we've got about a 6-second delay, so it's really amusing because I can wave here and then 6 seconds later it pops up over there. Tubby Tuscan, appreciate the comments. This is not fully locked in right now. We were op testing things and just getting it ready, and so here we are. So,
and answer one of the questions I saw earlier. The helmet over here is mine.
Bring it over.
So this is going to be for my kits.
And it's a Soul Seeker.
Soul Seeker, and it's work in progress right now.
Still very much. Liam is still learning how to use some of the tools.
So like the Dremel, I screwed up and scratched right here.
And what is our lesson about making mistakes?
Weathering covers a multitude of sins.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a lot of work on here before it's going to be actually
ready to go. And we bought some files recently, so we're going to be able to clean up all the edges and stuff like that and make it look pretty.
Because it's messy. Because I don't like Dremels, and I cut it out on a Dremel, and
it walked on him.
Yes. So note to self: don't use Dremels on something like that until I'm good with them. But that's going to take some time and before I'm good with those.
So, saying hi to my wife, who's closing the door on us,
and locking all the cats in.
And locking all the cats away. Hey, Cassidy, how are you? And so I'm going to move this laptop just a little bit closer so I can see you guys. Alrighty, cool. Good to see you guys. So I'm going to wait just a couple more minutes. Rob, can you double check, since you're probably able to, make sure that my post to the other sites went through, like the Mandalorian Mercs costuming group, and Cassidy, if you could repost it on the Sirar Clan forums within the Mandalorian Mercs and give the updated link, because I know that we had a couple people within the clan that were going to be doing that. And then also we're going to want to reshare the Google Doc. Make sure that you guys log in if you're Merc members and you want to go into that Google Doc and put in your name.
I'll swap the link.
Okay.
I can do that.
All right, Liam can do that stuff. He's a good minion. All right. So Cassidy, if you go onto the main Mando Mercs forums under the Tahuri clan, we've got the events section, and under the events is a thread that I've got talking about this virtual armor party, and so you should be able to go in there because I believe Kat or a couple of our new members were going to be logging into this. So if you could just repost it there, that would be beautiful, because I'm an idiot and I still got to learn more about going live with YouTube.
All right, I'm going to post those real quick.
And Liam's going to repost a couple things for me. So we'll get more and more folks on, and then we'll kind of get started. What is it that what was it that we're being done for the good of the realm? We have been exiled for the good of the realm into, Case de Blackburn, as we're here in our house in Elkhart, Indiana. For ourselves, we're kind of doing a fairly hard shelter in place. I'm somewhat high risk. I'm 45, got asthma, and so I'm doing my best to stay inside. This goober here works at a local grocery store.
So I'm heading out practically every day at this point.
Yeah, and we disinfect him like mad. Decontamination processes when he gets home. And so this is what we do when we're sitting here in a fairly hard or medium hard shelter in place.
Yeah.
So there we go. Seeing who all's, we've got a few people. Actually, it's not showing me how many people we've got live.
Not on here.
Not on that one.
Over here.
On the other one.
7.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. We got 7 people watching. So glad to have you guys here. I am Bill Blackburn, Obi-Wan. And let's see here, Rob. Curry, thank you, updated. We'll check the Sirar, please. So I'll kind of walk you through my main thoughts for the night. and what we're going to cover. And I'm glad that Rob is here. Rob even is a Russalor, which is great because I'm not. And so, in case I do say anything that is not factually correct or not correct for the CRLs, costume standards, whatever, he can correct us on there, and we can make a tweak, or I can try to adjust what I was saying. Really, what we're doing is this has been my first live test today of my legacy kit in progress. I gotta give huge credits to this kid right here.
Yep. I actually brought up my notebook full of all the sketches for versions, for the original version of this.
So to put this in perspective and what got us to this point, my son is 17. He's going to the Elkhart Area Career Center, and he's learning mechatronics. And as part of that, he's been learning a little bit of CAD, and we also do robotics locally at the E3 Robotics Center. And I gave him a challenge to help me do a legacy kit that looks better with my Stalker helmet. And go ahead and we'll show off my old backplate.
So version 1.
So this was version 1 of my backplate for my standard armor. And then here's the original sketch that started the whole thing.
And I don't know if it can show up properly,
it'll show
but
up
this was version 1. I spent 20 minutes sketching this up. And he's posted those before, but I spent 20 minutes on that, and then started designing up some stuff in CAD.
So he started designing it. I don't know if you can hear him while he's back there. He started designing this in CAD, and he has the luxury at his school, when it's open, of having a laser cutter. So he CAD'd all this stuff out, and I also have to give credit to the folks who made the original templates that are on the Mandalorian Mercs website. You guys are awesome. I want to say Sep is one of them. I'm forgetting, but I know that we communicated via emails, and we did use those as a reference. But then Liam ended up basically designing this all from scratch on his own. And the number one thing that I wanted to do is I wanted the angles to be the same throughout the whole thing, from literally every part, from the shoulders to the bicep to the back to the chest. And I wanted every one of these angles to match up, and I wanted that just good segmented type of look. And why did I want to do this? I love my original kit. It's Darth Hair, DHPFX. It is magnificent stuff, but I am 280 pounds, and I am not happy with my body shape or with how I'm looking. And I found that shape didn't look right on my frame, and the original FET spacing, and trying to get the spacing of everything with a body that's not really the ideal shape just was a monumental pain in the butt for me.
And just looked off.
It looked off for me, or a plate would get shifted here and there. And I'm not going to say that it almost caused a divorce with my wife, the number of times that we had to tweak and retweak all of the plate spacing, but it certainly caused us some stress. And so that's where I really started digging down the hole of legacy and saying, okay, if I can make this all fit once and make it work once, then I don't have to worry about it constantly getting shifting, or God forbid, you pull off your armor and you toss your vest into the washer, once a quarter or whatever, and then, you put your plate spacing back on and it looks like crap. So that's really what took me down this road of going to legacy.
But back to laser cutter.
Yes.
My class has a abundance of cardboard, so I acquired some and just cut out each piece individually. So that's turned into a nice fat stack of cardboard for.
And so this is my back right here, the back templates.
In cardboard form. Here's
and those the shoulders.
Shoulders. And the gist is these go in a 1/2 inch total each time it goes down.
So they shrink down by a 1/2 inch with each successive plate.
So plate 1, which is the top one, might be 12 inches. Plate 2 is 11.5, and so on and so forth.
Shrink on down. So that's sort of what got us onto the legacy. And this was a great project for forcing him to learn CAD a little bit better.
And also great for when I'm bored and I've got an extra 1/2 hour or two. then I can just CAD up something, bring it downstairs, get it laser cut. And this all actually kind of started off of knives.
Yeah, he originally started sketching knives out in class, and designing those up, and sooner or later we'll laser or we'll cut those out of something or other. And so
this is like a 12-inch knife. Here's another 12-inch one. And then I was bored, so I decided to make an 18-inch.
So
Yeah.
that's sort of the introductions and what got us to where we're at. This is my first time doing an actual op test of wearing all of this. It is not fully established or secured. We've got some clamps holding it on.
Clamps and Velcro and random bits.
So what we're probably going to do is we can start pulling it off piece by piece. And if you guys have questions about anything at all, post it up there. And then what I will also be glad to do is I'm going to show a little bit more about tools, basic stuff that you want to know as a newbie, and different techniques that I use to get here. So I'm checking Amanda, thank you. Working on your vest pattern. And so I'm really glad to have you guys here. Please do post up in the chat on YouTube. I'd love to hear where you guys are at in the world. This is sort of a weird world that we're all in right now. And it's cool to be able to connect with everybody and chat and talk story regardless of where we are in the country or around the world. So
yeah. And the only new pieces that we have that aren't attached yet are biceps. So one bicep, which is going to slide in there, and the other one, which is going to fit same place on the other side. So there.
Okay.
That you really can't see from here.
So we'll kind of start. And so you were in Rhode Island. That is about the only state up in New England that I haven't been to. I kept meaning to get to it. I was in Groton, Connecticut, on a sub once upon a time, and just couldn't get over to Rhode Island. So sooner or later, I want to get back that way. So we'll kind of go bit by bit, piece by piece. We'll go ahead and show you the gauntlets. And I've got two different methods of securing the gauntlets.
So this one is magnetics. And the only problem that we found with magnets is
I have some very strong magnets.
And that goes out very far, so he's gotten pinched once or twice.
It'll bite you.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and kill the power to that. And so we haven't yet secured the part on the inside of that. Go ahead and point it at the camera and run through the different light sequences. So this thing I actually learned about from Cassidy, in a clanmate, and I believe she showed me this at Christmas time. It was a cheap little pair of gloves with sort of LEDs and tubes, and it would light up your hands. They were little white gloves. I believe they're on Amazon. And all I did was cut the tube off right above the LED, drilled out some holes, put it in. Bob's your uncle. And I'll tell you guys the same thing I try to tell my kids at robotics who always want to put LEDs on their robots. Don't put the bling on until you've got the kit mostly put together. Even wait until you're approved. And then when you're doing brigade upgrades or you're just doing upgrades, because let's face it, no kit's ever done. Okay? You can always add bling, but do the bling afterwards. Okay? So next one we'll do, and these gauntlets are both April Storm 3D printed.
That's great.
Okay, and so to kind of start, the hinge pins are bicycle spokes. Okay, and so there's a spoke going through here, and then what we do when we put this together is it's got a nifty little indent in here, and we simply drop that in there. Are we showing it?
Yep, just rotate it down a little bit so you can actually see the hole.
And there we are.
Right there.
Okay, so it's a nifty thing, and what I do a lot of times, it's just not on there right now, is I put a little strap of leather onto this so that I can grab that and pull that one gauntlet off.
So he can do it with gloves on instead of having me come in and do it without.
Yep. So the light here is electroluminescent. It's a little EL plate that I got off of Amazon. Battery powered, really, really spiffy. And then the rest of my bling, you can tell the batteries are getting low, is this was another cheapo thing that was at like Dollar Tree or Dollar Tree, I want to say, at Christmas time.
The lights.
The LEDs. And so AA batteries, really, really simple. And it's fantastic. I love keep it simple, stupid type of solutions. And this was another little thing that we did just today in order to get this stuff down. And I just got to turn off this because it will blink. 2 different blinky patterns, and there you go. And
So-
we're simply holding that on with Velcro.
This was a piece that he challenged me to figure out how to hold these 2 batteries,
Go ahead.
because otherwise they just flop out and cause issues. So what I did is I got a piece of paper, put it in here, got a pen, marked that zone,
Paper template.
cut it out, and then once I got figured out what needed to be there and what angles, I took it, cut out a little piece of ABS, took his hot plate and then bended it in place, cut this out with a pair of shears, and it works perfectly fine.
It's not fancy. It's not pretty. We'll paint it later. We'll clean it up and make it look pretty. But what it did do is it secured all those battery packs in place, and it actually solved another problem, which was that the gauntlets would kind of rotate around on me.
They're a little loose.
And so this did a great job of keeping that all in place.
Closer this way. There we go.
Okay. All right. So
I'm gonna go put this away now.
okay. All righty. Rave gloves. Let's see what other comments here. Just catching up.
Yep. And
oh yeah, I get it. The gloves. You're saying they're rave gloves, so there's something that people would wear to rave, and they're all sure,
no,
absolutely.
Exactly
That makes exact sense.
No, that's exactly what
I love it. Yeah, Cassidy, if you could post a link on that, that would be epic. Bellevue, Nebraska, awesome. Glad to have you on here. I got family in Grand Island, Nebraska, so been through I-80 multiple times.
Yeah.
So, kind of driving on then. As I kind of take pieces off. So, if you're new, something to think about is where do you get your pieces parts? Okay, where do you source things? I'm going to tell you a link if somebody can toss it into the chat. It's called sportsmansguide.com. This place has been my favorite. I've used them for well over 20 years.
Yeah. Tons of fun stuff.
Yeah, all sorts of good stuff. I did get these gloves from there, and I got a lot of the other parts that we'll get to. But when you're buying your gloves, part of the costume requirements are that you have to cover up any labels. And so once I get this off, okay, this has, that wonderfully nifty label on the inside. And so I've tried different things when I've done TKs, Snowtrooper, or, clones and TKs in particular. And these are TK hand plates. And I would do a strap of elastic going across here. And I just felt that it never felt great.
It never felt solid.
It didn't feel solid, and it just sometimes would turn wonky. And so what I did is an old Snowtrooper trick. This is exactly how they do the Snowtrooper armor. I drilled 2 small holes, and I just spent some time and just sewed them on directly onto the glove. So I will never lose my hand plate. And I will tell you, if you're ever doing a parade, like a St. Patty's Day parade, 4th of July parade, I've seen kids literally swipe off a hand plate off of a stormtrooper. You're out there giving high fives as you walk along, and some kid grabs it and pulls it,
and you don't even notice.
And you might not even notice it. And next thing you know, boom, you're out of hand plate. So I will never ever lose my hand plates, and I love it. The other thing that I did for this kit, I do like having the fingerless, primarily because it does let me get onto a cell phone or do that manual dexterity stuff. That you can't do with full gloves.
Like, oh, hey, I needed a sign to get into a place.
Yeah.
Like at the ice castles up in Colorado, we had to sign to get into a place.
Mm-hmm.
He's wearing gloves, I'm not.
Yeah.
So I had to sign for him.
Yep. So there's the gloves, and there's how I solved the problem of the manufacturer's labels. So.
And you don't even need TK hand plates. You can get any hand plates you want or make your own and do the same thing.
Okay.
So
we'll kind of go to the next parts. Cape.
Let me grab the weathering rock.
We'll show you how I weathered my cape as we kind of take this apart. I'm really proud of the weathering on this. I'm pleased at the level of grunge and the level of destruction that we accomplished with this. And there's a great tutorial on YouTube. If you just search weathering like hammer, this is using a hammer and a concrete cinder block. And so I love it.
Hammer.
This here hammer and that there block, and you can still see so much of that fabric actually stuck to the cinder block.
So that.
Bangity, 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 bangity.
And a cinder block and a torch.
We did use a torch a little bit to burn stuff, but I love that hammering method of giving real scrapes.
I say torch, I mean lighter.
Yeah, industrial strength lighter type of thing.
Nope, just
okay.
Kitchen lighter.
Fine. Okay, from here, I'm not wearing it right now, but we can grab the balaclava. This is another cheap thing. If you don't have one, I do recommend you get one. Okay, it's a head sock balaclava. I'm not wearing it because it adds about 10 degrees right now, just putting that on. But a good balaclava is part of that thing because you don't want to show skin. So if you don't have a neck seal or whatever built into your kit, you do need to do something there. And so that's a useful piece of kit right here.
Just make sure you get something moisture wicking.
Moisture wicking is good. There are summer weight ones and there are winter weight ones. They're like polar fleece ones. And I wouldn't really recommend that because these kits are hot enough as it is. Okay. Let's see. We can start pulling extra things off, or we can
shoulder.
Let's do a full front and back. And again, this is the first time today that we put this whole thing together.
All right. So the back here is what was the suspension harness?
What do you mean?
This little harness, the suspenders you have.
The suspenders. The reason that I've got the leather suspenders. By the way, Zero in The Mandalorian uses the droid Zero uses these exact same suspenders. I was so excited to see that. Sportsman's Guide for the win for these right here. And so why did I go with leather suspenders? I got this, and this was making things wonky. And the other thing is, it was just pulling down my belt, or my belt looks great here, but it would get pulled down by blasters or by other things like that. And so I found the suspenders, or a Sam Brown belt type of thing, keeps that belt locked in place perfectly, and it keeps it all there. Mm-hmm. And so I love how it makes it work.
Mm-hmm. So then we got the backplate here. You saw the original cardboard templates, but because, hey, might as well make it more fun and more heavily armored, he wanted to make some spinal plates. So I just have a little 4x2 plate that I created in CAD, and that just glues onto each one. I've got the template somewhere around here.
Okay, there you go. Spinals.
Oh, sorry. Little tiny plate here. And then we just cut those out of Sintra and put it on there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I love trauma plating. I love how you can add depth and texture. And this is something for me as a bigger, beefy, bulkier guy. Alliteration for the win. And also the bomb, the big old Mando Brigade. For us guys that are a little bit bigger in girth, guys and gals, whatever, I find that meatier, thicker, heavier armor looks more appropriate when you're a bigger person. If you're a skinny git, you don't need 6 mil armor quite as much. 3 mil or ABS.
I still want to go with 6 mil because.
But my point is, he doesn't need trauma plating the way on my body, on my frame. I think the bigger stuff actually makes it look more proportional. So that's where these straps came in.
So yeah, for example, trauma plating for the original kit was just 2 3 mil plates glued on here like that.
And I do want to show off, this is a little something, I think, Rob, you even helped me out with this. When I was trying to fit this to the vest, and you see how you've got the return edge on the vacuum-formed ABS, beautiful piece of kit. The vest wouldn't go into, inside of the Velcro here. So I heat formed in extra little strips of 3 mil Sintra, and now it fits that in. And so when this sits on top of the vest, it actually connects much, much better. So this was a huge improvement that I did.
And that's universal for any vacuum form plates with a return edge.
Yep.
So
Okay.
doesn't matter anymore. That will help.
So moving right along, we'll actually remove the shoulders next.
And those,
Right now we're clamped in place for now.
Yep. So
Take them.
big old plate, just strip of Velcro on the backside.
And right now we're kind of using whatever we've got around the house. I'm trying not to leave the house for any extra parts. So while normally I could use nylon webbing or whatever, I've got a couple whole rolls of just the soft side, the loop side of Velcro with a sticky back. And so we're just using that as all the connections. So yeah, if you look at this here piece of suspenders, this is what Zero had.
Right. And now we can completely remove it.
So in the episode where they're breaking the guys out, or breaking the Twi'lek out, and so I love this thing. And if you could grab the leather die, we'll just show that off real quick. It's down on the bottom there. So leather die for the win, dark brown.
All right.
Okay.
And should we do the full back now?
So here's one of the interesting things, or the things that I really like about the way that this is going to work, is this is all strapped front to back. And so the idea is that once I get this finished right, I'll be able to just toss it on almost like a piece of football armor or whatever. Really excited about that. So let's see what we have. The commentary about Legacy, no gaps. Make sure with your collar plate that it's also overlapping for the Legacy. So
yep,
this is overlapping onto the chest. And what we're going to do is we have additional pieces that we're going to do.
Right there. That's overlapped there.
And we're going to make an additional piece to go from here to the back armor.
That's going to cover right there.
Go ahead and show them what we're talking about doing right now.
So this piece was taped up to mark what we need to cut off. So this piece here will go underneath that edge there. Nope, around. There we go. And we're gonna heat form it so it fits on right here. And actually the reason why we have that tape there is we're gonna remove this plate, cut it there so that this piece will fit all the way on here. So it's got a lot more area to stick rather than just here, here, and here. We got an entire area to put Velcro. So I'm gonna move that now.
Okay. So Rob, please tell me that should solve that problem about the gaps with the Legacy. It's still literally a work in progress, but that's where we're at right now.
All right. So let's remove these.
So here, all I got to do is undo one side.
And the entire piece is off.
I'm super thrilled with how this is coming along. And so, yep, we'll be good with that answer. Perfect. Okay? Yay. And something that I'm geeking out about is I love the fact that I'm able to reuse this part from my original kit. I loved the striping and all that. And so I get to reuse that part. And so I'm just thrilled with how that worked out.
And the armor is weathered in the area that it's chipped off, but it hasn't gotten the dirt layer yet.
Right.
So
you can kind of see the difference between my original weathering, all the dirt, the sand, the mud, and that's what we'll be putting on the whole rest of this kit.
So mud here, no mud there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Obviously, all of the Velcro will come off. This was for my original kit. Okay. For the original FET style plates. So that's what is on here. That will all go away in the near future. Same ripper for the win. Okay. And as we kind of work our way down, I'll give props to Mel Matson for her amazing leather work. She took some very basic sketches that I gave her, and I sent her out some of the pieces, parts, and she put together both the belt and the holsters. I sent her a couple of the 3D printed reloads, and she made absolutely magnificent little parts, pouches to hold that all in.
Yep.
And then I'm doing Desert Brigade upgrades. So that's where the extra pouches are. I got my water bottle. And then
Greevlies.
Various pieces, parts for the desert upgrade. One of those is weathered, so some weathering on it. A little bit of
These are ink cartridges from a printer we have.
from our printer, just glued back to back, and then weathered up, and a little bit of silver paint marker and some rub and buff.
And gunk.
And then I think I've got a first aid kit.
It's an Altoids container.
And this sort of brings me to something that I can't stand. So you'll see this all the time with folks that are that have got pouches on their kit, and if they don't fill up the pouch, it's, for lack of a better word, flaccid. Okay?
Yeah. It's boring and just, it's like, oh, it's on there to just look.
It's purely for looks, but it's not serving a purpose. And so bringing back the other one, I don't know where you hit it. But if you fill it up, I don't care if you fill it up with cardboard, with Legos, it doesn't matter. Fill up your pouches so that they hold, so when you pull it out of your tote, they're still solid. And
if you have irregular objects in there, it looks better because it looks functional.
Exactly.
So, like, we got a ball of twine in here,
mm-hmm.
along with the other stuff in there, so it just looks irregular and used.
Yep.
So that's
just a personal billism that I can't stand. Pouches that are just flat and smushed. Amanda, do I feel that Velcro closure on the vest is a better choice? Debating how you want to do that up on your vest. Honestly, I think that depends on your level of your ability as a seamstress or your capabilities, okay? My wife is I love my wife. We just had our 25th wedding anniversary this week. Bonus. And, but few things have caused us more tense discussions other than sewing. And so I'm just grateful to have a vest. And so for me, the Velcro works. I love it if I had the ability to actually put it on myself and connect it up and get into and out of it. I don't, so the Velcro works. So Rob says, I don't recommend the corset closures. They're really tough. So Velcro is what I know. Some folks, like in earlier times, or if I think about biker scouts and whatnot, they'll have a Velcro seam all the way up their spine. And they'll have side plates with no Velcro on the sides. Do what works for you, what works for your best stuff. The thing, if you're going to do a zipper, you have to make a thing that will actually cover the zipper. There's a lot of debate, there's a lot of discussion, but basically no zippers that are shown externally. So like even when I do this, I've got my wrap, the neck wrap that covers that up. Okay?
The little hat cape.
So buckles are great. There's some discussion on parachute buckles. I'll do a little side rabbit trail for a minute because I see this discussion all the time. Like, what type of fabric or what type of stuff do I use? Okay, so I'll show you a couple different materials. And I'm going to ask a poll for the folks. This is getting interactive now, so I want you guys in chat. What looks more swarzy? What looks more Star Warsy? Ballistic nylon, black, or leather? Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds. Give me an answer. What's more swarzy? We'll see if folks are still there.
Leather.
Leather, that's right.
Leather.
That's right, kids. Leather for the win. There's sort of like a pecking order the way that I see it. This is a Billism. To me, leather is by far the most Star Warsy. The next would be canvas belts.
Canvas strapping.
Okay, canvas strapping. And then after that, ballistic nylon. And the thing that you'll see about ballistic nylon, a lot of the time you want to cover that up with plating. Like if you're talking pouches and whatnot. Yes, the X-Wing pilots do have nylon strapping, so that is one exception to the rule. And especially like some Mandos, I've seen some epic Mandos, pilot-type Mandos with ejection harnesses and all that crap. Nylon for the win there, okay? I'm doing a desert ops Mando, and so for me as a desert guy, pistolier, gunslinger type of dude, I'm going for old school distressed beat up leather and canvas. That's a Billism, but that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
Okay.
And Red Eye has stuff about zippers.
Okay. Yep. Great info there from Joa, Red Eye Joa. Yep. One of our new folks in Indiana, right? So great info as far as looking at the taking care of zippers. All right. So candy leather for the win. What do we got?
Rob talked about parachute buckle CRO.
Okay.
It needs to be weathered like the rest of the kit.
Rob, thank you for that clarification. That's why I'm glad you're on there covering my back. Okay. I got all of this stuff. We don't have a Tandy Leather, I think, within about 100 miles of me where I'm at in Indiana. So tandyleather.com or Tandy Leather on Amazon for the win. Okay. For whatever stuff I didn't get from Mil Matson, and I'm still going to put a plug in for her. CEO to Run, you'll find her on Etsy. She is absolutely amazing. I know her from my time in Colorado, and I can't say enough good things about her. So we'll pop that away. If you are getting leather stuff, it's good to get a good quality leather punch. If you can hand me that leather punch, the orange handled one.
Yep.
Okay. This one here is a piece of Fayou. Absolute garbage. Okay. I'm at the point now where when I try to punch holes in with this, it won't go. So I need to get something better. And so whatever one this is, I think I bought this off Amazon. Piece of absolute Fayou. Find something sturdier.
Yep.
Okay.
Tandy Leather has good tools.
Yeah. All right. Moving along. The girth belt. Okay. I had debated if I do this type of thing. I do like the extra texture that it gives. And, you know, kind of going back to the original FET. Okay. Is this the one that I have to undo? These ones?
That side, yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to undo the other one.
So, all of the weathering on this was white or cream. All I did was stick it into my weathering pot of doom. If you want to grab that, it's back over there.
This?
Okay. It's the blue one. It's on the ground here somewhere.
Somewhere.
It's underneath there.
Oh.
Okay. So I set this inside of coffee, a few inches of coffee for about 3 days. Pulled it out, stuck it out in the rain, and bada bing. Okay. So
Big old weathering pot.
that's my weathering pot. I don't use it for stew anymore. It's just for dyeing fabrics and dyeing stuff for the Mando. Okay.
Thrift store find.
Thrift store find for the win. Okay. This stuff I have not yet hit with the leather dye. The Feeblings, so I still need to do that later. This is on my to-do list. The Google Doc is set to view only. Let me change that.
That's going to be in share.
Okay. Share. Anyone with the link can edit.
There we go.
Thank you for the comment. I just changed it over to sharing. Cool. Hi, beautiful. Alrighty.
I'm going to shut the window because it's getting cold.
I did not know about that veterans discount with the with Tandy Leather, so that's awesome. Love that, and appreciate that. Get more people on. Thanks, Slade. Appreciate that. Okay, so now as I strip down, this one's kind of embarrassing where I got this, but it's really hysterical at the same time. This is from Goodwill, and it was a baby bumper to go inside of a crib. A lot of times I'll go to Goodwill or to the local thrift stores and I'll just look around for stuff that just grabs my eye. And this had some Velcro on it. It had some nifty edges. I like the fact that it had ventilation built into it. And so with just a tiny bit of extra Velcro and cutting it down and adding a hem, I've got my sash. And it's cheap, it's simple, and it works. You know, in time I might improve it and replace it, but for now it works. And I like cheap and simple found items when you can.
Yep. Because honestly, that fits best in my opinion.
Okay?
All right. Now we can do a blaster show and tell.
We'll do blaster show and tell. Okay? I'll show you the gamut of blasters, okay? Because I have a number of 3D printed blasters as well as
Most of them are 3D
other things.
printed.
Most of them right now are 3D printed. I do love this KOTOR. Nico Okara is the character. And the thing that you got to know about doing, if you go down the road of 3D printed, is you got to get rid of the lovely print lines.
Here's
And
a work in progress blaster and another work in progress.
so, Liam, this is a next one is a Kaz Rider, and this was other one was Kaz Rider.
Yep.
So very much work in progress.
You can see all the print lines easily.
He's going to be Rob. We're going to use your idea of using files, and the other thing that I like to do is I'll actually run like a straight edge blade, like a utility knife blade across it, just to pull down some of the high points. In time, I would love to move away from PLA. I would much rather go to a resin or an ABS based one, because to me, PLA, as much as I adore them, to me personally, they're not worth the effort of the sheer number of man hours that it takes to get all the print lines out. But that's just me. Okay.
So
But these are blasters for my kids. It was their Christmas presents.
this is my sister's. The other one was mine.
And I'm a firm believer that you should, suck it up a little bit and do the hard work in order to kind of learn.
Yeah.
So there we are. XT3D, XTC3D, I do have that and have used it. One of the problems that I ran into with the XTC,
Because you
That-
lose a lot of
that-
detail.
maybe it's the way that I did it, it ended up filling in some of the little detail lines in here. And so, because it's a self-leveling resin. And so, maybe it was just dealing with my first time playing with it or whatever. I just found that I lost some resolution, but it is still a phenomenal product and I do love it. And the other thing that I did with that is I mixed in aluminum powder with it. And so you kind of got that cold cast effect. So if I ever wear through all this stuff, there's actually an aluminum cold cast look to it. I do
And
love
I
that
actually have
stuff.
a pure cold cast piece over here.
Okay.
So here's another April Storm gauntlet. This is mine, and this has the XTC 3D, and you can see which parts I've worked on a lot more than others. So this piece here needs more work, as does this piece here, but the rest of it is pretty much taken care of.
Yeah. And that is the cold cast look there. That's all got the XTC with the aluminum.
So this piece needs more painting and sanding before it's ready.
But I do, you can get some absolutely beautiful 3D printed parts, and you just have to be prepared for the work that goes with it. So just understand, if you're doing a PLA based print, there will be work, and your Rousselors will be looking at them, and so be prepared. Okay. Now I want to show we can show those ones off.
All right. So these are mine as well. Were his, but are mine, not mine. These are the realistic Westerners, and right here is actually a really good place to show where you lose resolution, because these were all very deep.
Mm-hmm.
But now most of these are pretty filled in.
So,
But
I think I do want to play around later. We've got the graphite powder.
all right, yeah.
We might do a little play around.
I
with
need to
this
clean
in a
these up because I painted these a little heavy.
bit. Okay.
So those need some cleanup.
Next on Blaster Show and Tell. Okay, here's how to do it super, super cheap. This is a cheapo holster from Walmart and a $10 dingity dingity dingity. Okay. And so this was a revolver from Walmart. I don't actually wear this with my kit. What I love about having this blaster around is for handing to kids. Because I don't want to give a kid a $100 3D printed, that I put 100 hours into sanding off print lines. But I can hand a kid this and let them go blingity blingity, and I don't care if they drop this. So
That was a weekend
Yeah.
side project.
Yep. We pulled out the cylinder, put on little pieces of Sintra, added in some the Bondo spot filler
And
to kind of fill stuff in.
some
Rub and buff.
rub 'em up.
And then just pea leather, fake leather wrap. And so it's swarzy enough, and I can hand this to a kid, and I love having this around. So kind of cheapo for the win.
And another area of cheapo, but looks really good, is this thing. And this you spent how long on?
I'd say 20, 30 hours.
So not a ton, but a good chunk of time. And this was a P40 airsoft rifle that you bought for like what, $40?
I think it's more like 20. Okay, this was a very cheap, like the cheapest MP40 that I could find, and so phenomenal. So I spent more on accessories on this thing than I did on the airsoft base, and this is just for this was a placeholder for hanging off.
That was a test we did.
Yeah, an out test. I do love. Okay, I get a working stock. Okay, ish. But we'll kind of go once you cut that off. So, things that I did onto this. It came with the rail. I moved it off to the side. Here's a Billism. You can take this one to the bank. One of the first rules of Star Wars costuming. Why have one scope when you can have two for twice the price? Star Wars loves multiple scopes. It loves offset scopes.
So if you think about, not the E11 is not a good example, but it's got all those extra greeblies over the magazine.
Yep. So yeah, like on an E11, it's got the little power cells on top of the magazine. Anything like that to change the look up so that it's not so earthly. So yeah, it was kind of like a peace tie. There you go.
So that's the scope on top of a.
This is a single point scope, extremely common throughout the Star Wars universe. I gave a call to my buddy Darth Hare, and he cast this up, and he made me up a resin scope and had it to me pretty shortly. This was beautiful. And then I bought the offset rails to put that on there. And then the old classic Crossman BB scope. Okay, these things all throughout Star Wars. And to me, you can't go wrong if you're using scopes that are really well known in universe. So, did we freeze up? Are we still going over there? Nope. Looks like we're back.
We're
okay. From there, I must have painted this thing 20 different times. I also had to fill in mental note. Fill in the screw holes, Dingleberry. Yeah, you got to do it. Okay. What I would do is I'd take hot glue. I'd fill it in mostly. Put that in there to fill it up a lot, and then I would cover it up with Bondo spot putty filler, and then just sand that down. And so that was an extra day or two's worth of work.
And we actually had a metal pipe that we were using as a barrel, but I took it out on a whim one time when we're like,
we were going to make it quite a bit longer, and when we shortened it down, this worked for us. And I guess Krennic's blaster, I think, might be based off of the MP40. And so I didn't even know that when we did it. I did do a little bit of Death Trooper type of painting bluing there, the bluing. And so this has been a fun little piece just to have around.
Yep.
Okay. Just a couple glitches, he says. A gun, put a scope or 6. Even though I hate scopes, so, I mean, you take...
Scope on pistol.
Right. Are you actually going to use this scope, No, but it sure is swarzy. For myself, I was originally going for gunslinger, and so I didn't want the scope the E10s. I cut them off. Your mileage may vary. Do what you like, but airsoft as opposed to some of the other routes, especially World War II era, because that's so much of what the original Star Wars original trilogy was.
So World War II airsoft guns, and because you're messing them up anyway and cutting them up anyway, get the cheap ones.
Yeah.
That way, if you drop it, you're not dropping a $300 airsoft rifle that you spent another 300 hours working on.
Other mental note, okay? I don't care if you're talking airsoft, if you're talking Nerf, whatever you're talking, guess what? Rip out the guts, okay? Gut it.
I'll be back shortly.
Okay.
I'm gonna get my.
Most places, conventions, don't let you take anything that shoots darts or BBs or airsoft pellets or anything like that. So, just gut it, rip the thing apart, pull out the guts. You have to demill it so that it will not shoot whatsoever. Okay. So just make sure that you do that. All right. Last, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. Okay. People love Nerf. Why? Because your kids have them, you have them, you can get them at Goodwill all the time. Even like this bad boy, that is a long-term project that we're going to do.
This thing is probably going to weigh close to 40 pounds by the end of it.
However, there is so much work that goes in.
So that, all the words here, all the stuff there, everything here, all of these rails, all of that needs to go away. So this is going to take
100 hours,
several hundred hours of time to just get it down to the base level where I can just get it approved like this before I add on all the greeblies, all the other stuff.
Right.
Because what I'm going to do is I want to have 3 barrels, a flamethrower. This is going to be the biggest, bestest BFG I can make it. So
there is fun in de-nerfizing something, but if you're a new person, especially as a brand newbie,
try to get your kit approved as quickly as possible.
You want to get your kit approved? Get a normal Star Wars gun. Get a airsoft gun, do something like that, and then do the Nerf for a long-term labor of love. Okay? You see all these lovely little raised panels in here. That's got to go, like the rails usually have to. There is a metric ton of work that it takes to de-nerfize something. Okay? And I do like the idea to fill the interior with spray foam. That's a beautiful idea, Slade. Okay? So, we'll show you a little something. This is something I did with my Snow Scout once upon a time.
But this is a long strike. And long strike has been heavily used and is very common in the earlier Mando days, I think.
This is something from like 8 years ago. 5 years. It must have been 8 years ago when I did the Snow Scout. So this is long before I knew any of the rules or before there were even rules about de-nerfing. Okay, so I just had a great time with it, and I gave it a digital paint job using the existing squares. Absolutely not approvable whatsoever. And yeah, every third Merc had a long shot at one point. This was like the gun of guns. Okay, but a Snow Scout, when you're in Colorado, up in the Rockies, up on a glacier, looked freaking awesome, but not approvable.
Nope. So I'm gonna get this back to Kyla. Here you go.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rob. If a kid says, I've got that Nerf gun at home, you haven't done enough de-nerfing. That's quite literally, that's a great point. If you can identify it from a glance, oh yeah, I've got that Nerf, you haven't done enough.
And honestly, that's a problem I'm going to run into with the Vulcan, but hey, it's a big BFG. I don't care.
Right. That might not be for approvable, and it might just be for playing around it at cons or whatever.
That's gonna sit on a tote behind the lines and look pretty. That's kind of its purpose.
So, from there, we'll just kind of move around to some other parts. Okay. Here is one part that was originally on my kit. We'll probably go to Liam. This is the ballistic nylon. Okay, but we did do a ton of weathering on this. And so the grenade / ammo pouches, or the ammo cylinders, I got a buddy at the robotics team, and I told him, hey, I got a 40 millimeter grenade pouch, and I need to have reloads. And so I said, make me up a 40 millimeter grenade and add 3 little power cell greebly dudes on it. And within 20 minutes we had that, and we just printed up a whole batch of them. So these kind of work for the DE10s, and they just look like fun. So they add bling. Kind of a thing to think about. You see this all the time in Star Wars. Like you'll see a kit and it has silver blips or silver greeblies on them. And look at that from the point of view of the camera and the lighting and the props department. You want things to grab the eye and grab attention. And so I don't mind tossing little silver bits on there, conchos, greeblies, whatever, something to catch the light. Like even if you look at the Imperial Navy Trooper or the Imperial Crew and they've got the black belt, they still have a couple of silver bits on their belt buckle to grab your eye. And so just keep that in mind when you're doing your kit, and spend a lot of time researching those original trilogy costumes, especially to see what works within the universe. So
Research the area you're looking at.
okay, let's see here. We'll kind of show, I just want to show you, this is one method of doing legging. So we'll talk a little bit about E6000 in a minute, but this is just E6K holding this on, and then this was elastic. And so it gives it just a little bit of flex, and I love the fact that I can sit down in my back plate.
And that was the goal.
That was the goal, and that just sits onto the back of my vest for my old kit. Okay?
Underneath the bed. Underneath
That's
your
okay.
duster.
So, talking about E6000, we're going to do a little demonstration about why E6K is so important. Okay. Excuse me.
Yep.
So-
I'm going to get a pry bar.
Yeah, we'll get a pry bar. So E6000 is absolutely beautiful. Okay, unlike, grab real quick the E6K and the CA glue.
That's fabric. Look over there.
Right
for
up
these.
here, right there. E6K.
Yep.
Okay. These are my two best friends, three best friends when it comes to gluing. CA glue and Accelerate is awesome. I use that all the time when I did my Clone Trooper. Do not ever, but never use this on a Stormtrooper or any kit that has glossy ABS armor. Just don't do it.
And also don't use it for your first trial of a certain piece.
Yeah.
This will literally glue it together forever, and there's nothing you can do to take them apart aside from drill and cutters.
Yep.
So.
Okay. E6000, I learned about this when I was doing my first TK, my first clean armor. And if this ever seeps through, it'll put a little glob through there, and you can actually rub that with your fingernail, with your finger, and it will rub away like rubber cement. And so this stuff is the bongdiggity.com.
And it's great because you can remove it.
So what we're going to do is we're going to make the overlap for the back armor, and it's going to go here and match this angle. But I don't want to just cut straight into the back plate. So I'm going to rip off.
Ooh, wow.
Okay. Oof.
Interesting.
Well,
Good thing that's being covered.
yeah, that'll be covered. So I'm going to do this right now. And this might be because I was doing this in such a rush to do this for this armor party. So I might have rushed a little too quickly. But what I can do is I can rub this E6K and it will go away. Okay. And so
There we go.
that will rub off. Okay?
That's a lot of layers of paint.
It is a lot of layers of paint. We might let that cure before we put that back on.
Yeah.
Okay?
That might be why some other pieces are floating around.
Yep. It is. Okay.
I'm gonna
So
put
now-
this away. Yeah. There we go.
This is my favorite cutting tool of doom for 6mm ABS. Or 6mm Sintra.
And shoot.
Okay? Harbor Freight for the win. Okay, we'll go ahead and pull that back just a little bit further there. Okay. For 3mm Sintra, score and snap is perfectly fine. Okay?
For 6mm, it won't work.
6mm, you can do it. It will take a long time. I don't have that kind of patience, quite honestly. Okay? So this is my favorite tool, and we'll probably break this out in a minute. Okay,
Your
and show
other
it.
option is a Dremel. But the downside to a Dremel is
It can take off on you.
it can take off on you. and it requires a lot more fine control. So if you're a little bit newer, haven't worked with Dremels all that much, you can make more mistakes like I made on my helmets, which is why I need to spend time
go
fixing
cut
that. You cut your piece.
Just hand me that ear pro.
Yep. Do you need eyes? Or
Is that a trick question? Do we have clear eye pro? All right, I'm going to check other questions here. Contact cement plus webbing for reinforcement.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. While you're talking about tools.
Yep. Liam's going to talk about tools for a little bit. I'm going to do a quick cutting job, and we'll show you just how quickly that does.
This is another fun tool that we got at Harbor Freight, and this was for sanding angles and other hard-to-reach areas. And sometimes you don't want to spend an hour or two on a certain piece, or you need to get into a very small area. This can work perfectly fine with that. I forget what this is exactly called, but this was like $40 at I'm trying to say Menards. $40 at Harbor Freight. So another very useful tool. Okay. Are you done already? Wow, that was quick. And he's on his way back in. There we go. So, cut back piece now. Back drama. And this is going to sit right here while the collar plate locks in. Right here.
And so it's going to give us a ton of Velcro real estate for that back plate to hop onto.
Yep. Oh! It almost stuck right back into it.
Okay.
I'm going to clean this up a bit.
The bigger challenge that I've run into with this, and I was kind of rushing on that, is you just have to really test it as you're popping this into the plastic. And we're live again. Sorry about that, guys. No idea why it dropped out.
Could be that 20% of people are using YouTube right now.
It looks like we're... Hello.
So, a lesson we're kind of hitting right now is... I think it's facing the wall. Yep. Hello.
Okay.
Let me flip that around.
Thank you.
There we go. So, a lesson that we're running into right now is don't use E6K before your paint's finished curing.
Yep.
Because...
Yeah. So I rushed a little bit too much. We had one day of good weather here in Indiana, and I might have done a lot more painting that day than I should have, but I wanted to get this ready for today. So the paint didn't cure fully, and so that E6K ripped all up. So, hey, repairs and weathering, right?
But this all right here is getting covered by this plate anyway.
Yep.
And we should be good with that.
Yep. So E6000 is still just phenomenal. So glad to be back, guys. Glad to have you guys here.
And focus this off a bit.
Okay. I've been talking like mad. Does anybody have a question of something that we haven't covered yet? Okay. Otherwise, what I can do next is I'm going to start walking you guys through tools and different equipment.
PVC dust everywhere.
Yep.
CA glue can shear it off. Oh, CA glue, you can shear it off, but it's strong and brittle. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, scroll it on down.
Slade?
Yep, slate. Okay.
All right.
So
yeah, the focus looks off.
Yeah.
Looks a little fuzzy.
it might just be because we could be buffering.
Oh.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions right now before we go into other tools and stuff that's in my cabinet?
You can see how much of a delay is.
I know we got a good lag.
All right.
Okie dokie. Footwear. Okay, let's see here. Good for now. Okay, yep. Yeah. Alrighty. How do I keep the plates attached for the chest plates? So,
There's a few different options.
this is my legacy. Here, let's pull that back. Can you pull the camera back a little bit wider? And
Without knocking
tack
stuff
it
over.
up just a little bit. Okay. So, for legacy, this is my work in progress.
So that's hot glue and a set of webbing.
Okay. This is still very much work in progress, but I think it's going to work for me. And I love the fact that with the Velcro and the way that I can do it, we can adjust it to make it tighter or looser or further down on me as needed. So that's how I'm doing it on the Legacy. We'll grab my vest and Mr. Mannequin and we'll show you the plates. Vest is over there.
Oh, and Mr. Mannequin's right there. And with traditional, you have a few options. I heard rivets was one option.
Okay. We got to talk towards the camera, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for traditional mounting methods, I went Velcro. Some people will use magnets. Some people will use rivets and connect it up onto there. Getting plate placement on a FET for my body shape was a monster pain in the rear. Okay. Your mileage may vary. You might not have the problems. I've heard that it might be a little bit more difficult with vacuum formed armor to get it perfect, as opposed to if you cut it out yourself out of a template with Sintra. Okay. You know, the bonus is that you can tweak it and retweak it. The downside is with this, you're shooting your application photos, and if that's off ever so slightly, you will get denied. Okay.
What's buzzing?
I think it's my watch for sedentary alert.
Oh.
Okay.
So, yeah, Velcro's one
Okay.
option.
So
Rivets
Joshua,
and
I hope that helps you. If you're doing traditional, do Velcro first for the love of God. Because if you're punching holes through your armor or through your vest and you're tweaking it and retweaking it, don't get upset at the Rousselors if you get denied and you have to tweak it. I want to say during the pre-app process and during the testing process, we redid Velcro here 5 times or more. Okay.
So, Wright is something.
Yep. Rob is saying. Rob, you are absolutely right. Please, for the love of God, don't do the permanent placement until you know it's there for good and that it's perfect. Okay? Save yourself the trouble. Okay? You mentioned Chicago screws. Okay? For those that don't know, Chicago screws, post screws, these are phenomenal.
You can actually see some in use on the.
Okay? So,
here.
a Chicago screw or post screw. I got this large batch from Amazon.
So this right here, this is a Chicago screw right here. It's flat on one side, and you got your head on the other.
Yep.
And then it just screws in there and looks all nice and pretty from the outside. You can still adjust it from the other side.
Yeah,
And
don't put the screw head on the outside. Don't do that. And these were used on snow troopers for the straps that go around the mucklucks. And I love using these things on a Mando, but just be smart about it.
Yep.
Okay. Somebody had a question about footwear, I do believe. Tubby Tuscan. Okay.
Boots.
Okay. Can you take one? Okay. So I'm going to show you some important things to know about your footwear. Right? So here is a boot plate, standard issue FET type of boot plate. I added extra trauma plating for bling. But there are things that you got to watch out for. Namely, see that bad boy right there? Label. You got to cover those things up. Okay? In my case, I do a thing called the puttee wrap. And we may or may not do that demonstration. But these are wraps that go all the way up my leg up to close to the knee. It's based on World War II and actually even goes back to like Roman days. These things are awesome, but they are still a pain in the butt to put on, and I'm glad I have a Squire, okay?
Hi, I'm the Squire.
Okay, now, you usually can't show like laces, zippers. Rob, please confirm. Yeah, always for the love of God, wear socks.
Yes.
Rob, can you comment as far as like if you have side zippers on a boot? Like I think of a lot of combat boots have a side zipper. I don't really know what the answer is on that. But some things to think about. If you're going to have laces like this, you need to have some type of method, a spat, or a cover of some kind that's going to cover that up, okay? And then he's still going to have to do something to cover it up here.
I'm probably going to be going the boutique route as well.
Yep. So just stuff to keep in mind. Cover up those laces, cover up, and Rob will hopefully answer on the zipper question on side zips on combat boots and whatnot.
And again, the logo. That's
the logo's got to
by.
get covered. Okay?
So
these boots right here are left over from an indoor Rebel Trooper build.
Nope.
The Desert
Rebel
Trooper build. Okay. Great boots, totally swarzy. But
only problem with them that I've noticed is the bottom has like next to no traction. So if you're inside of a gym or somewhere like that,
the material's really slick.
It's very slick. So these ones can slide around a lot. So that's something I'm going to be thinking about for a later adjustments is maybe swapping out my boots.
Rob, thank you for the answer. Zippers are allowed if they're hidden behind a flap or on the inside of the foot there. So good to go. Thank you. Okay. Boots have zippers on the inside, so that is acceptable as the inside zipper there. So there you go. Footwear. I think hiking boots, something with a good rugged sole, or like these are old Wellington boots or something like Wolverine boots that I had from when we used to live on a farm. Okay. But I love the rugged. Beware, personally, I would say beware of like the TK style boots with a really slick leather bottom. I've seen troopers take falls because they had no traction. And you're a Mando, so get some traction on your boots.
Get some good boots. And also make sure they're comfortable for long periods of time. So if you got a pair of hiking boots that you really like, use those.
Mm-hmm.
Or buy another pair. Personally, use the brand new ones, and for your kit, use the old ones. Because hey, those are already pre-weathered, and if you're buying a second pair, might as well use the nice ones for yourself.
Okay. All right. If you guys have any other questions, spats are another great option for covering that up. Spats can be really easy. Sometimes it can literally just be like a rectangle with a strip of Velcro that gets covered up in the back, goes around there. So those boots for the indoor and the Desert Rebel Trooper, well, those indoor troopers have spats, and it covers that up. And so there you go. Bob's your uncle. Cover up the laces. Mm-hmm. Okay? All right. Gaiters, chaps, all those great choices. Basically, here's a general rule that I'm going to throw out there, especially for the newer folks. Think about it if it would work and if it would look good in the guild room on the Mandalorian when they're in the bar. And if you were standing there at the bar and with a full body camera shot, would you look appropriate standing next to the Mandalorian? Or if you walked into the cantina in the original Star Wars, would you look appropriate standing there at the bar? Okay? If so, then you're along the right path. Okay? That's just the kind of mentality that I try to think of. When we would do X-Wing helmets, like X-Wing pilots are all in the same jumpsuit and all that, but your helmets were allowed to be custom. And the rule that the Rebel Legion had was as long as it would look like it would fit in the Yavin briefing room, you could do a custom paint job. Okay?
Which lets you do a lot of different things.
Yep.
But that sort of mentality is what you can look for in your kit.
Yep. So from there, I'm going to do a little walkthrough of what I've got and what I built up for my tool cabinet of doom. Okay?
I'm going to scooch the computer back.
We'll scooch the laptop back.
And this is what I do all my personal CADing on at home. So, good CAD laptop. Thanks.
Clampety, clampety clamps. All different sizes, all different types. Clamps are your friend.
Now,
Okay.
a note that we actually found when using these clamps, these tighter metal ones, is when going straight onto Sintra, these leave indentations, lines.
Especially when the rubber tip comes off. This will. So grab an extra piece of Sintra
Or two.
or two, one on each side, and put that on there so that takes the damage, and you don't put in clamp lines into your plastic.
So, good rule of thumb for whatever kind of kit you're doing.
Next, one of my favorite things,
Magnets.
magnets. Okay? Do a search on the Mando forums or whatever, and you'll see all types of discussion for what types of magnets to do. I've got these ones I've had around for years. These are some newer ones. Magnets are awesome. Here's one of the newest sets that I got. Someday I'd like to do a set of metal legacy armor. And so I got these with countersunk heads, and sooner or later I might try to do that and actually do like a full metal legacy. And so I bought these, but these have still come in exceptionally handy just on this build.
Just so we can have fun and get all kinds of greeblies and just be like, oh, here's a blaster or something. I want to stick it on my body. So I can like give a kid a high five. Clack. Hey.
Yep. So Joshua, would magnets work for trauma plating? I suppose. If you want to toss on a trauma plate and you want to hear that clack, sure. I just G6K all my trauma plating on and just leave it on there permanently. But magnets, to me, magnets are the best clamp ever for building.
Because you can put them anywhere and everywhere.
And if you need more strength, you just put a bigger stack of magnets, and that will give you more force holding the part together. So magnets are just phenomenal. And quite honestly, if you just go searching on the Mandalorian Mercs forums for rare earth magnets, you will probably find links. Okay, you can search under Mandalorian costuming, do the same thing. And by the way, guys, the search tool is your friend. And there are a few things. This is another Billism. There are a few things more frustrating than seeing somebody post a question that you had literally crafted an amazing response the day before, and they didn't go searching through or just scrolling down before they posted their question or didn't use that search tool. So I'm just throwing that out there. Use the search and take a look and see what you find. And if you still have questions, then ask the question. All right. So we'll kind of drive along. Up over there, I've got some Bondo spot filler putty. Okay, Bondo is a two-part. So you take the other stuff, you put in the cream, the hardener, you mix it up.
And we've got quite a few little pieces where we've put the Bondo on when we're working with it.
Yep.
Just so you don't put this on something you want to keep. Yep. You put it on a piece of trash because you're just going to throw it away anyway.
Okay. So I've got a whole bunch of testers, enamels. Okay. I like enamels for small detail stuff. I will never hand do an armor kit in enamel. That is only for small detail stuff. Okay. If ever I had a favorite item on the face of the earth, it was polyscale acrylics. Their grimy black was the best color ever for washes. I did like 3 clone troopers with polyscale grimy black. You can't find it anymore. But acrylics are great because you can water them down.
Put it in a spray bottle.
Yeah, put it in a spray bottle
kit.
With Windex, and I would spray that on. The ammonia would evaporate, and it would leave behind the paint in just the most wonderfully recessed areas. Phenomenal.
It's the most realistic look you could have. So you'll like set it up on a mannequin, spray your kit down, leave it overnight, and come back to have it realistically weathered in those recessed areas.
Yep. And the other thing about the acrylics and the washes is after you put it on, then literally give it a wipe down with like a lint-free rag and a wet rag and wipe it down. So like if you think about the Mandalorian when he got mucked up with the Mudhorn, and he was dirty, mucked up, filthy, he still wiped his armor down afterwards, but there were recessed and dingy areas where that dirt was still there. So shifting gears, this is a nifty tool that I learned about when I did my Shore Trooper. the shore trooper armor actually had pits on it. Like if you ever seen the World War II era cheapo US based helmets, they had this pebbled texture to them, and the shore trooper helmets had that on there. So I got this stuff when I was doing the shore trooper build, and I would take a sponge and rip apart the sponge and pop it on there and do that on the plastic and leave those little stippled marks. And then I would paint it on top of that, and it left that sort of cast iron, cast steel type of effect, and I really like the texture.
What is this? This is...
It is modeling paste.
Modeling paste, okay.
Okay.
And on the topic of weathering and stuff.
Okay.
Using toothpaste and other.
Okay. So we'll talk about. I posted some videos earlier this week about the weathering method that I did on the plastic. Okay. And so what I did is I did a layer of silver, and then I would put toothpaste. My son here, I asked for toothpaste. He got me toothpaste. We learned our lesson. I need to communicate more clearly. The paste style is better, okay? Because what I ran into with the gel is the gel was sticky and tacky all day long. And so every color that I did on there, if I touched that toothpaste, it would still get tacky, and I get paint all over my hands.
So toothpaste,
so
not
paste,
gel.
not gel.
Make sure you read the labels.
Read the label, okay? Can somebody just chime in and post in a comment to make sure that I'm not talking to myself? I'd love to know if you guys are still there.
There's 13 watching now.
Okay.
Slade.
All righty. Okay, so silver, and then I would do the first layer, and I did a small bit of that to cover the silver up. And then when I did the next color, the yellow or the orange or the maroon, the cranberry, then when I did the toothpaste, I made it bigger, and I didn't have to cover the area that already had toothpaste. I went inboard from there. I went in towards the center from there.
A good example is here. You can see more. So a little bit on the silver, a little bit more on the yellow, and then he did the final color and then pulled it all off. So you did some on the black as well, because there's
I did
silver,
that on the black level.
black, and then yellow, and then this top color. So you can see where he did each level consecutively, so that when he pulls it all off, you get the layers from each one.
And I had gotten this question on the forums this week about why and where in the real world you actually see layers like this. In my first life after high school, I was a submariner. I was on fast attack subs out at Pearl Harbor, and everything was metal. The stanchions, the pipes, the pipe fittings, all of the equipment in the engine room was metal. And so you'd have your base layer of metal, and then we put a primer on top of that. And then after the primer, then would come whatever the base color was, whether it was haze gray, or it was the green of the engine room, or white in the reactor compartment, or whatever it was, right? But you would have those layers on top of it. And then, of course, you're doing maintenance, and some dingleberry takes a wrench and knocks it across there. And that part that you just painted just got a chip into it. And so that, to me, is sort of where this comes from.
And another area is with this backplates. This originally was yellow, orange, and so on and so forth. So that's what the original coloring was. Later on, we decided to go with a different primary color.
With a Sando look.
With the Sando look. So that's where this bronze comes in. But that was added on later.
Yeah.
So it shows age and how you've changed your look over time.
And to me, that's like a critical thing. Like I don't nerd out that my character per se. I don't create some huge backstory. People do that, and that's great if that's your bag. It's not my bag, okay? But I do want my armor to tell a story, and I want it to look like it's been lived in and used.
And passed down from father to son.
Exactly. It's a generational armor. And so that's the way that I do it. Your mileage may vary. Some people do immaculate brand new kits, and they look phenomenal. It's just not my style. Go with what works for you, okay? All right, more stuff. Okay. Other favorite weathering things?
Paint markers.
Paint markers. Paint markers are great for hitting dings and edges and nicks and stuff like that. All right.
Like, for example, the edges of this scope here. Like, around that dial, you can see where he hit it with the paint pen. So
Okay.
that's real world example.
Graphite. You hit graphite onto a sandpaper or onto sandpaper and get that graphite and put that on there. That can be good. Okay. You can't ever have enough hot glue. Okay. Hot glue sticks. Don't use these cheap, crappy things. I went and bought a much better one, high temperature one at Harbor Freight. I will warn you, high temperature will burn you exceptionally well. This thing was beautiful, really evil. Every kit to me, requires, probably didn't show up, but I got huge blisters and burns along here because I was working on with my old glue gun and it just splurted out. And I got just this nasty burn. But, to me, the armoring gods require a blood sacrifice, and so there's my sacrifice.
This is our new hot glue gun. Again, Harbor Freight is your friend. So, AdTech Pro 80. This thing was $20.
Yeah, $20, something like that. That thing is a tank. I love that hot glue gun.
Now, the one thing about the high heat ones is they take longer to heat up, but once they're warm,
yep,
longer to heat up and longer to cool down, but once they're hot, they're hot.
So mental note, I might actually want to use like mechanics work gloves when I'm using that in the future because I don't want to repeat that little burn. It was painful. Okay?
Oh, hey, I just realized what we could use this for. Yeah, do you know what this is great for?
Nope. There you go. Okay,
Ah.
shoe goo. Especially, hey, if you're putting armor plates on shoes, this is actually what I used on my boots to put on the boot plate. Shoe goo.
Sugar, I'm going to steal some of that. I need to use that.
All right. I'm going to show you this. This is just an example.
Bin of Greeblies.
Bin O Greeblies. All right.
These are the little pucks from the Mandalorian.
Kaz Rider, you're awesome. Okay. But I collect junk, pieces, parts, and maybe that's going to find its way into a kit. Or we might, repurpose some of the buttons or other junk.
This was originally on his boot to cover up the logo before we swapped over to puttees.
Yep. So this, it was painful, but I had screws.
Chicago screws.
Well, and these other screws going in through the boot. And this was a 3D printed double-barreled Gatling gun gun from Warhammer or something like that. But when I cut off the barrels, it sure made a good-looking little Greebly dude. More Mandalorian style, different scales of what he's got in his boots. Okay, and so I just keep a little bin, collect up a thing just full of junk. Okay, sooner or later I'm going to figure out how to add this onto a kit. Okay, it was a little lamp that goes onto like the bill of a hat.
Here's a unpainted one right here. But
and so I just keep junk like that around, and sooner or later I'll finish the stuff up or find a way to put it in there. Hey, Kat, how are you?
Wait.
And this, like for a medic kit, I'm hoping I can figure out a way to use that because that just looks awesome.
Yep. Oh, speaking of medic kits.
Yep. And then I have a little bit of PPE. I'm not hoarding this stuff. I've had it. But, do use your PPE, especially when you're grinding or you're doing your stuff with the Sintra, whether you're heating it up or grinding and stuff like that. You don't want to get that powder and that stuff into your lungs. All right?
So, speaking of medic, these are other little Greeblies that
John Holm
gave him. These were some medical piece. I don't know off the top of my head, but this went onto his bicep. And these are Chicago screwed in as well with just elastic.
Yep.
So bicep plate and just pull them out. And this, honestly, I can use as a kidney plate because I'm a skinny little git and it fits there perfectly. And I can still access it because, hey, I'm a flexible little skinny git.
Yep. Kat, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for doing a good thing and making face masks. That's awesome. Keep giving back. And miss you. I miss my Colorado peeps. All right, so this is my bin of Velcro. Keep around both sew-on and sticky back Velcro. All right, hook and loop, whatever you want to call it. You can't ever have enough Velcro. Use coupons if you can. Get a bunch. The sticky back industrial strength is awesome. My problem is I have a metric ton of loop, but I never have enough hook. I don't know why it is, but I always seem to run out of that first.
You might have the other problem of have too much hook, and not enough loop. So
Okay.
stock what you. I don't know.
I have a bunch of parachute clips left over from like trying to do a run of snow scouts or something like that. This is another good thing for weathering.
Steel wool.
Steel wool. 4-aught, meaning 4 zeros. Steel wool is just excellent stuff. Okay. This is really good if you want to rub it across, or I believe if you do the cold cast with XTC 3D and aluminum powder, you hit that with steel wool and it can really polish that up. This stuff is never dull. This even goes back to my Navy days for cleaning up the bright work. So if you have like a chrome buckle, or you want to polish up that buckle, the square rectangle or the rectangular buckle from Tandy Leather, this is great for polishing that up and making it shine.
Yeah, well, we always end up with a mixture of one or the other.
Okay. This is a non-Harbor Freight tool, but I'm going to show you a bunch of Harbor Freight stuff. What I love about this is, A, I don't have room for a full workshop, and so I don't have a full belt sander, and I don't have that big stuff. But I love having stuff that I can take up, toss into a tote, and take it to an armor party. So, you know, over the last couple of years, I've invested and tossed more and more money into enough parts so that, you know, when we're out of exile for the good of the realm, and we can start getting together with the rest of the people, I love the fact that I've got enough tools where I could show up and polish or grind or work away at armor, and that I don't have to take a full shop with me.
Oh, and other fun tools that he's acquired.
This right here, excellent alternative to a full. Now, obviously, a full huge belt sander for making straight lines and all that stuff is great, but this has been wonderful for little detail stuff, and this was not expensive. So Liam can talk about that little doohickey.
This was a hot plate from
Goodwill.
Like $5.
$10. It will never see a pancake ever again.
But this is how he's been heating up the 6mm and 3mm Sintra, as long as it fits on the plates.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the chest plate was way too big for this, so we used a
Harbor Freight heat gun.
Yep. You might notice a brand that we've been talking about a lot.
Yep.
Harbor Freight.
Okay. Rob, you had asked us before. I'll kind of re-talk about this. Okay. Usually I found about 2.5 is good, 2.25. Unfortunately, with this one, it's like I'll be working on it, and then it will just magically twist its way down to 3. And when it goes to 3, that's where the plastic will actually stick to this, and it gets really nasty. And so I do have to pay attention to that when I'm working with it.
But do a little hot plate.
Okay, Amanda, I'm glad I'm not the only one that ends up with one side or the other of the hook and loop Velcro. This is a personal billism. Traditionally, what I will do is have the loop side facing towards my soft goods and have the hook side facing away from that. I don't remember which kit I was working on, but there was something like that. And I just didn't want the hook stuff scratching away and damaging the soft goods. And so...
You actually got the opposite on here.
Well, okay, on that one. So... your
That
mileage
could
may
have
vary.
also just been because of you had an excess of that. And
I think that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
But just stuff to think about.
Is mileage on your kits.
Okay. I got a whole bin full of sandpaper. Every grit from like 40 grit on up to 2,000. Okay. And obviously, you know, each one serves a different purpose, and it just can't hurt. You know, get a coupon, go out, grab a couple packs, whatever. You'll always need sandpaper. Okay. This doohickey, grab me the ballistic nylon. One of the straps. Okay. Soldering iron. Okay. While Liam's searching. Not only is this good if you ever actually have to solder, which I've only done like 5 times in the 20 years since I got out of the Navy. Okay.
Since then. Okay.
Since then, okay. But what this is phenomenal for is you get this bugger heated up, this will eat right through that ballistic nylon webbing, punch right through, and it cauterizes the edges. Beauty.
Perfect hole
Okay.
every single time.
And so if you ever have to do snaps, okay, Tandy Leather has some amazing snaps, okay?
Snaps, Chicago screws.
Well, yeah,
rivets.
if you're doing Chicago screws, rivets, anything like that that goes through this, soldering iron is your friend for making your holes, okay?
And that actually kind of reminds me of elastic as well. Now, elastic, there's a couple other tricks to getting elastic to stick as well with snaps.
We'll pretend that this is a piece of elastic. This will destroy your kit, and you will have an armor malfunction, particularly in the middle of a St. Patrick's Day parade. Not that I know anything about this, okay? If this was elastic and you just put a snap through here, guess what's going to happen? It's going to pull, and it's going to stretch, and that snap is going to go through there. So what you have to do is,
elastic, you got your snap here, that'll stretch, and your snap's going to fall right out.
So what you do is you take a piece of ABS or Centra or sign material or whatever, and you make a square, and you drill the hole through that plate, and we call these snap plates. And I do one on both sides, and so you use that, and then when the snap goes through here, it's attached to real plastic and not just stretchy.
It also helps when putting it together and putting your armor together.
Yep. So here's another Billism. 2 is 1, 1 is none. When it comes to snaps, and in particular, I'll talk about a TK Stormtrooper where you've got your chest plate, your back plate, you've got a strap going through here and a T-strap going to your shoulder bell. Okay, I always use 2 snaps on the inside here because if you have one will fail and it will fall off in the middle of that parade, in the middle of that troop.
Yep.
If you have 2 snaps, 2 is 1, 1 is none, it keeps Murphy away, and Murphy sucks.
And you'll check them at the beginning and end of a troop and be like, oh, I'm missing one, so when I get home or do my next armor build day, I can fix it. So.
Yep. And Slade, I don't know, I didn't see that, but I'll tell you what, I've seen enough armor failures. And so that's why 2 is 1, 1 is none. And sometimes I would even consider doing something like a bit of Velcro and a snap. Okay, just keep Murphy away because Murphy sucks.
Yeah. So what other tools do we have? Tons and tons of cutters.
Yes.
So these are tin snips, great for 3mm and
The
ABS.
bomb on ABS. Those are awesome on ABS. Not so good on 6mm. Okay.
Will take you forever and you'll hate your hands.
Leather cutters, leather scissors, fabric scissors. And so I have just a whole other shelf of all your basic tools. Just collect stuff over time. You never know what you're going to use. Talking about the elastic, or not the elastic, but the nylon webbing. So you cut a piece of the nylon ballistic webbing. Go ahead and bring it over. Okay.
Both. So this end has been
okay. And just hit that edge. Boom.
And it will melt it so it doesn't fray and come apart on you as time goes on.
Yep. Keep the fray away.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's also how you do. That's also what you do on paracord. Mm-hmm. So if you cut paracord, burn the end so it doesn't fall apart on you, because it will disintegrate. I've worked with enough paracord to know that it will fall apart on you. Now, don't touch it immediately after you burned it, because it is hot.
It's
and it just
napalm.
melted.
Yep.
So give it about 30 seconds before you start handling it.
Yep. And then I've collected a huge supply of paint. I'm a Rust-Oleum guy because Rust-Oleum is what they have at Menards locally. That's our local Home Depot or Lowe's type of thing.
We don't have a good Ace Hardware nearby.
Yeah, I used to use on my clones. I used a lot of Ace. Their cheapo stuff. Their white was really good. But you know, the thing is, typically, here's some lessons learned on paint. Keep it within the family. So if you use Rust-Oleum, use Rust-Oleum.
If you use Ace, stick with Ace. Keep it to one brand or get it the time
Sure.
to fully outgas.
Outgas. you will hear about things like spider webbing or crackling or orange peel. And typically, more often than not, that's going to happen if you did something when it was too humid or you put on layers of paint when it hadn't outgassed.
So there's some spider webbing in here and just other gunk on here. Now, we wanted that, so that's why we're okay with it. But if you want to clean plates, make sure the humidity is low when you're painting.
Correct.
Or find know a guy that has a dry room.
Yeah, if you know a buddy who's got an auto body shop or something like that that's actually got a proper painting on a rainy day sucks and it can destroy your paint job and whatnot. So don't be impatient is what it comes down to, unless you're like me, where you want your armor to look mucked up, because when I put all my washes and stuff on here, it's going to be messy.
And the spider webbing will catch all of the weathering so wonderfully.
Yep. Amanda, I honestly don't use clear coats. I have not on any kit that I've ever done. And although I do have it, I've just never done it.
We are actually planning on using this for one item in particular.
Yep.
But that's because we want it to stick the way it is. This.
Okay.
This is a little piece of scrap plastic that we got from a friend.
Somebody in the RV industry.
And this is a graphite rub on the blade and rub and buff on the edge to give it this nice shiny stabby look. So this is something we're going to actually clear coat so it stays nice and clean.
And then with the clear coat, we're going to mess around a little bit, maybe tonight with graphite. It's a new thing you see going around on the forums a lot. I haven't played with it much, but I want to mess around with that. So yeah, I just don't do clear coats. Just never have, because typically I'm going to throw on more weathering. And here's the thing about weathering and washes and acrylics, and I never really spent a lot of time on the acrylics. I'm going to lift up the camera here and show you my thing of acrylics.
Actually, you got a pretty good angle from here.
Okay. Every single one of those guys on both of these rows are acrylics. 50-cent Walmart, 50-cent Joann's, and Michael's. Okay? And so I'll just go through and grab a ton. And because I love browns so much and I'm doing a desert, I'll grab 10 different types of brown. Okay? And then maybe throw some green and some orange and some other things like that. And washes are better when you do multiple layers over time to get you multiple different tones and textures of the weathering.
And another thing about not using clear coat is, like, for example, the knees. You have painted knees, and when you take a knee for a photo,
Let me go grab one of them.
You get realistic scratches from using your armor, and you'll just get the right kind of look every single time you take a knee for a picture or to give a kid a fist bump or something. Just the realistic weathering that comes from using them constantly is something you really can't get away from. And also with the legacy and having all the plates overlapping, the wear that you'll get from them bumping into each other is something you really can't get with a clear coat because it's protecting that paint underneath. Yep. Now, I'm planning on going with a full metal kit, or I say full metal. I want to look full metal with my plastic plates. So once I paint them, I'm going to throw on a clear coat to protect that paint. But that's because I'm going for a very specific look that requires that paint to look
And
nice.
we'll probably do a satin instead of a gloss. So just your mileage may vary.
But yeah, different paints for different purposes.
So yep, lots and lots and lots of acrylics. Another billism when it comes to doing your washes. I can't say this now when everybody's hoarding toilet paper, but when I do a wash, if I were to wash this right now, and I'm going to put that on there, and we might just do a little wash exercise here. I love to use toilet paper. I will never, ever, 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 ever blot away weathering and washes with a paper towel because it has a texture to it. And that texture can come out into your weathering.
And the great thing about toilet paper as well is toilet paper disintegrates when wet.
And so it clumps up and it falls apart and it gives you a really nice organic look while you do that. So
toilet paper is a good thing. Also, another fun thing for weathering is rocks.
we'll kind of go into this for a second here. I'm the only person you might know that keeps a cinder block and rocks inside of my office. And what I did is I used this nice scratchy edge of this rock to scrape away, and I put in real gouges and dings. And
For the plates, I just essentially put this down on the edge and just ran it along the edge to get to get scrapes on there. So I'm not going in with a knife and putting scrapes in. I'm literally just running it down.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that I do love about Sentra is malleable enough that you can put those dings in and those divots. So when I put a wash into here, that wash can accumulate in there and it just gives you more texture and more look. I'm also going to comment, one of the other things that I did do on the armor plates is I used hammered paint as a base. And
so Rust-Oleum has a lot of really fun textured paints that they've been coming out with.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get nice colors with that.
And I just adore the three-dimensional texture on it for the style of armor that I've got and the look that I'm going with. It works for me.
Yep. So, yeah. We have a lot of Rust-Oleum right now.
So I'll tell you what, son. I want you to get me just a little bit of water. Okay? Just give me a small cup of... Nope, not even that.
Yeah.
Just a small cup of water.
Yep. And do you want me to use some toilet paper?
How about a towel that I can put down underneath here?
Okay.
This right here is phenomenal. This stuff is Rub and Buff. It's a wax-based item with color in it. This one's silver. They have a gold, which looks really, really cool, like on the knurled edges on scopes or on greeblies or things like that, just to give you that extra layer of color palette. So fun stuff. I love Rub and Buff. A little bit goes a long, 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 long way. Use gloves.
Button or off. All right.
Okay.
So, water.
Get a real towel, like the black towel from the bathroom or something.
All right.
So we'll do a little weathering example. And before I do that, I'm going to stop and just say again, if anybody's got any questions, please ask. We're sort of hitting, towards the end of the things that I really wanted to go into. And I want to make sure that I'm answering any questions.
Hang on. I'll be back.
So please post up a question, comment. You can tell me, Bill, you suck. Love to have you, whatever. You know, I feel like I'm talking to myself here.
Yep. Here's some toilet paper.
And I'm going to do a quick look at the Facebook just to see if anybody's posted anything that I've been missing.
Oh, more rocks.
What would I suggest? A Mermanda weathering. Ooh. That's a great...
because there is an aqua...
I got something for you, and I want you to... You're going to have to look for this on Amazon. There's a word called verdigris. V-E-R, verdigris. G-R-I-S. And I saw the coolest two-tone, two-part application thing that you can put, and it will make it look like that green stuff. Verdigris. There you go. Thank you for... barnacles. Okay, so in my first life on the submarine, and they would always love to have us clean, okay? And we had these copper funnels all throughout the engine room where you would have stuff that would get condensed and go into the copper funnels, and then the piping would take it down to the bilge, and you clean the bilge during field day. And we would clean those copper funnels of that verdigris. And it's that copper stuff with that green nastiness and crustiness. that is absolutely something you would see in a maritime environment because, come on, submarine, maritime, all right? And so we would take that in bug juice, which is the Navy's version of Kool-Aid, dip it in the bug juice in a big old gallon thing, and just let it sit there. And then we take that wire brush and scrape off that verdigris and get it back to shiny copper. So copper and that barnacly, sort of rust would be great.
Wire brush.
Okay, wire brush. And so that's what we would clean those things with.
Another great weathering tool.
So I know for a fact because I Googled it once upon a time because I found this stuff for doing verdigris style weathering and it's out there and it was phenomenal. Okay. Really, really cool stuff. Okay. Yep. LST 325. I was SSN 696 and 715. Many moons ago. Both of my boats are razor blades now. Okay,
Yep,
we're
it's
still
back.
live. Okay.
Both of your boats are razor.
I know, both of my boats are razor blades. Okay. We're back on. Looks like we buffered a little bit.
Acrylics.
Oh, what color do we have here? This is coffee color. All right.
You can get some really fun color combinations, and hey, if it looks like poo,
Great.
guess where you had to do a job.
Sponge. I want my spongy dude.
I know where good sponge is. That was.
I want that little shred of sponge.
Well, I don't know where your shred is, but I do know where your destroyed sponge is from
Great.
last time.
Okay.
I'll be back.
So the other thing you could do is like the face pad applicators, but these still have a texture to them, and so I much prefer organic. Organic much over something with a texture. So I'm going to put it up a little bit closer here.
Here's the destroyed sponge that was used to scrape off all the paint.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Put it on thick. Make a mess. And then I'll tap it in. Just tap it in, Happy. Just tap it in. Okay. I'll make a god-awful mess. It's okay. And then, let's see what else I got here. It's an organic process. That one's empty.
You find a fun color, throw it on there. If it looks like puke, great. If it looks like you fell into a sewer, wonderful.
Okay. This is brown. Brun.
Brown.
You clean that up.
Yeah.
Okay. So here I'm going to grab it straight off and I'm going to put it on just like that. All right. Gobbity, gobbity, gobbity. I'll just put gobs and gobs on there and dollops of it. A little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe I'll run it through and get it towards those cracks.
Cracks and scrapes and stuff.
But you see what I'm doing is I'm applying it in sort of a dabbing motion. Okay. And I'm just doing random patterns here. And by the way, Rob, if you can search for it and post a link, do a Google search for Adam Savage weathering. He does this thing on a NASA microscope case. And it is one of the best descriptions of how to do weathering right that I've ever seen anywhere. And I've really tried to take Adam's method to heart.
Oh, that reminds me of another piece that Adam Savage commented on.
Yep.
I'll go get it.
Okay.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
I do. So here we are, right? I got gunkety, gunkety, gunk. How much toilet? Am I using like $100 worth of toilet paper here? What's this stuff worth? Okay. All right. And I just dab it. Just dab it away, Happy. Just dab it away. Okay. And then, you can even kind of wipe it away if you want. But then I'll tap it back in. Just tap it in, Happy.
And then you leave it overnight. It'll dry.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. It looks like you cleaned it off after you got some filth on it. That's kind of the goal. Oh, here's an example of something that looks like it fell into a sewer for weathering purposes.
Yeah, here's a great example of that weathering technique. Say hello, R2. So this is that $100 whatever from Amazon R2D2. I wanted him to look like Dagobah. And so I've got a mixture of really heavily dabbed on and other parts where I washed it and watered it down. And I love to make things look like they're mucked up and lived in and used.
And here's an example of desert. A little BB-8. The same style of weathering on. So, yeah, that was a 3-hour project.
Okay.
And he's awake.
And we even did the same thing with the AT-AT. That was a Christmas present when Liam was like 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And
still love it. It's filthy. It's awesome. Adam Savage.
go ahead and turn it a little bit. Yeah, Adam Savage even commented on it because I showed that as an example of his weathering techniques in action.
And this has been used for many a
Photo
first shoot. Yeah.
Yep.
And is this one of your items in the background of one of your photos?
Yes. Uh-huh.
YouTube channel?
Yep.
Yeah.
So there you go. Weathering for the win.
My dog.
Okay.
Yeah, you even painted the inside of that.
All right, Charles. I'll answer that question for you. Let me show you my. Let's see if am I showing this right? Tell me if we got this in.
Yeah,
camera.
I think it's going to be
okay
in frame. Yep.
Are we in frame?
Yep.
So I actually have that attached to my belt, and I have both a cod plate and the armored loincloth.
Just for the whole.
For brigades. Some brigades are requiring, I think one of the brigades that I'm working on requires a cod plate, but I put a lot of effort into getting this cut out on the X carve and making it look pretty. And so I've still got the armored loincloth plus cod. Got to protect the jewels, right? And it's just got a pouch and it just slips on directly onto this belt. But this belt, this area here, gets covered up by all those waste items, so nobody can tell how it's connected.
Yep. And the reason why he's not doing a full boba cod is because he wants to be able to sit down properly, and if you can't sit down without crunching something, you kind of got an issue. So he swapped over to that so he can sit down comfortably. Okay. So he can wear half of his kit while driving, and then just show up to an event, throw a couple items on, and be good.
So we'll kind of go back here. You can see where... And one of those, even though it said brown, sure looks like it's got some sparklies to it. And so, it's just interesting. So if I don't like it, hey, what do? Just wipe it away. Okay?
And grab a different brown.
And we'll grab a different brown. So here I'm going to go open up another brand new one, and this is light mocha. Okay.
Hey, that's golden brown.
And where'd the spongy go?
I don't know. I didn't touch the sponge. Chocolate brown. More chocolate brown.
Charles, to answer your question, do I have a loincloth? Okay, yeah, we showed that. What method would I suggest for a one-piece flight suit? I would say to find a way to... Most people attach that, I believe, to one of their belts. And somebody here, Rob, if you've seen that done, if you could answer that. I don't quite have the answer because when I had my one-piece flight suit, I'm pretty sure that I had it attached to some of my waste items. I think I had it directly attached to my sash.
Not your sash, but it was attached to... It might have been your sash.
I think it was my sash.
I think it was attached to your sash via Velcro, but we swapped over to hooking it to the belt because you swapped over to a two-piece system, and it was much more comfortable that way. So
that was a little too thick here, so I'm watering it down. Okay, and this I'm really going to wipe this away, but I want to put it on thick for a bit. Okay, and maybe I just even do a little bit of that, right? Let's just get it mucked up. Okay. I mean, this looks like excessively stupid level of mud, right? But this is acrylics we're talking about.
So now, with your little piece of wet paper, your wet toilet paper.
Okay. And if this is still too much, okay, maybe I'll grab a big hunk of toilet paper. I'll wipe it down.
And then start over. But hey, you still have a layer of grime that still got into there and kept the weather.
And now it's got almost like a dusted look to it. Okay?
Because, oh, hey, you're a Sando.
I'm a Sando.
Sandstorm.
Good song. What song is that? Okay. And then maybe I toss it on a little bit more and I keep layering. Okay. And then I will do contrasting colors. So if I go from this one, then I would probably do a darker brown later. Okay. Yep. So I'm going to pat this away. Just tap it away, Happy.
You don't need a weather.
Weather. Not what? What are we going to weather?
A little ATTE.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because, hey, we weather everything anyway.
And then pull that back even further. Okay. And that's washes and weathering 101.
And you do that about 6 more times, and then that's one piece done.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. I'm going to block that away. And now it's got more texture.
And if it's a little wet when you put it away, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you hang it up vertical, that's fine because it's going to drip down.
But I still like this color, so I'm still going to put a couple dibs and dabs, okay, like mud splattery type of things, okay? So it's just a random process, but something that I do like to do, and I'm not doing it right now, is I think it's actually a good idea to weather your entire kit at once, or weather as much real estate as you can where you're doing each layer with the same color palette and the same effects.
That way it's a consistent color all throughout. So you don't do one piece at one time, another piece at another time, or keep your same paints out and write down what order you did it in, just so you keep a consistent, thorough run of your colors.
Okay. All right.
And the sponge just smelled.
I just saw it. Okay. So, what other questions? Any other topics you want to go into that we haven't hit on yet?
Yeah, we've hit that 2-hour mark now. It's 8:15.
And I got my pad of paper over there. Just grab this.
Yep.
I'll look at any other topics that we haven't gone into.
Oh, you wrote down topics?
I did.
Wow.
Side note, if you are a official MMCC member, I have a Google Doc that I have actually changed over to edit mode, and you can put in your information into that, and you can get credit for being on this. You got to put your board name, and I put your clan and then your MMCC number. Okay.
Tuscan asked, jetpacks versus backpacks.
Yes. If your back can handle it, go for it. If your budget can handle it, go for it. If your build level can handle it, go for it. I don't have the money, the disposable money to throw it back at a jetpack, so I'm not doing one. I've seen some great, phenomenal builds, okay? So I'm going to run back to my earlier commentary and just Google. Not Google, but use the search feature on both the Mandalorian Mercs Facebook, the Mandalorian Costuming Facebook group, and the main Mandalorian Mercs forums, and just search jetpack and take a look at what people have done. I saw the most amazing backpack built in, or jet thrusters built into a guy's back plate, and they were parts out of like the urine or the toilet scrubber brush thing, and that thing just was the coolest effect in just looking like great little jets coming out of there. And it was found items in the hardware bathroom section at a hardware store.
So there's tons of ways of doing it. So if you want to have it built into your back plate, that's one way of doing it. If you want to do a thruster,
So,
Or one idea that I might do later on is a Titanfall style jump kit
mhm.
that's attached to my lower back rather than do a full backpack. Now, I don't know if that's quite approval or not, so that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
But
So here's the thing. The beauty about the Mandalorian world is that if you want to use a vendor's established jetpack, like a Boba or a Django style, or even a Commander Cody or Sabine style, go for it. And by all means, support the vendors, right? The folks that are making that stuff.
Or if you want to do a Endor or a Hoth Trooper backpack, you can. It's in lore, so use it.
And a good example is there's a guy named Chris Sharp who has done this beautiful Sando, and he did one with canvas backpack and surplus type items and made a killer looking backpack. Okay. So always ask yourself, can you make it look like it would look appropriate in the guild, in the Mandalorian, or if you walked into the cantina in episode 4 and you walked in there and you're standing there at the bar when Han walks in, okay, if you would look appropriate and that backpack would work, then by all means do it. Leather, canvas, that sort of thing, it would be my preferred materials. Okay. And like the Indoor Trooper, that was a Boy Scout frame, a Boy Scout backpack frame.
So if you get an external frame backpack that fits your body, slap all kinds of fun greeblies on there.
But I would not do a modern external frame with like the plastics. I would say to look for one with the aluminum frame. The metal frame backpack would make for a great backpack frame. And but the Indoor Troopers and the Hoth Rebel Troopers both use that Boy Scout style external frame backpack. The Indoor Troopers also used like a Czechoslovakian soft pack, and I think they even used a straight up off the shelf Alice pack. Okay, so all of those are options, and just kind of look at what's been used.
Frames.
Okay. Yep, old school, man. Alice packs for the win.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just kind of going through my notes. Something that I did with the CRLs is the CRLs are your Bible, your guide, the thing that you have to check everything off of. And you know whatever the Mandalorians call it, a CRL costume standard is what you have to check everything off of. And so what I did is I've got some sliding glass doors in my office here, in my office and workspace. I wrote the entire CRL on the doors here, and I looked at them every day and I check them off one by one as I got those things done. And I would walk through each part, and it would give me time to think about it and mull it over. Hey, how do I want to solve that problem? The costume standards did just recently go through some changes. Some of them are significant, and so check them out and double check them and make sure that something that you were doing with your build didn't get superseded with the new changes.
Like schmogs, for example.
Okay, so we got a schmog down there. Go ahead and grab that bad boy. Okay, there was a time where these things were approvable within reason, and now they are not. Okay,
so, and something I'm gonna try to check out because I wanted to do a schmog in mine. What part about it is not approvable? Is it the pattern?
I think
it's the danglies?
So the tassels, like, can you cut off the tassels? But see, like, this has got the pattern, and I believe this pattern is so earthly that this is a complete and total no-go with this because of the pattern.
Like,
okay?
I'm pretty sure I have a just one color
single tone
schmog, and if all I have to do is get rid of the tassels and for it to be approvable, that's great. Or if it's just a schmog period gone, then I'd like to know that.
Yep. So schmoggage. So if you're new and you haven't started a WIP thread, or you don't know what a WIP thread is, you need to make one. They are work in progress threads, and they are essential. Okay. And don't just put stuff up on Facebook, but make an official WIP thread, put it up in either your clan forums or in the appropriate area on the Mandalorian Mercs site, and post to it. I don't know how the right way to say it, Imgur, IMGUR, as my photo hosting site. And so I put all my pictures on there, and then it does some really good links for putting that up, and that works really well with the message board forums. So make your WIP threads, your work in progress threads, and get opinions. Do the pre-app process before you send in your application. Your resources will appreciate it.
And you'll appreciate it because if you're like, oh, hey, I'm thinking about using XYZ on my kit, post it, ask the Hive, and then come back to a day or two later, see the responses on whether or not you should drop that cash.
Yep. Let the Hive mind tell you. And I'm going to say that in particular with Etsy and eBay. For the love of God, don't ever, 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 but never order something from Etsy or eBay without asking the Hive mind, especially your Rousselors. Some vendors out there that shall not be named, some dude's prop shop, is particularly known for selling recast stuff or helmets that are not approvable. And so ask the question before you do. Now, there are some vendors out there that are phenomenally great vendors. Darth Hare, Demon Dog. I'm thinking about other folks. Okay.
Who do we get the stalker from?
Well, my stalker was from NME. Okay. Rob, thanks for being on. Appreciate your time. So just for new folks, and if you're guiding some new folks, double check before they spend the money, because there is nothing more frustrating than having somebody drop $150 or $200 on a helmet, and then it shows up and then the hive mind rips them apart because they're like, oh, you just bought from a recaster, or that helmet will never get approved because it has Optimus Prime ears and an X-Wing part for the mouth. Okay, those of you that know what helmet I'm talking about, you know which Zero Cool one I'm not talking about. Okay, always work with your local Rousselor because they're the person that's going to be helping you get approved. And don't piss them off and don't treat them bad. Be nice because they're there to help you. And they're sometimes in a tough position. So you got to be nice to them and get their opinions. And if they tell you to do something, it would behoove you to look into it. Horse. If they tell you to do something, it would behoove you to do it, to look into it. Okay. There are differences. Talking about CRLs, there are big differences between Legacy and FET. If you're going to do Legacy, make sure you take a look at it. But basically, it's that everything has to overlap and no gaps. Mm-hmm. Okay? I'll talk briefly about types of armor and the plastic or the materials that you can use. Right now, I'm using Sintra or expanded PVC foam. It works really, really well. It's got a low heat point, a low melting point.
But here's a comment about Sintra. Never, ever, but never cut Sintra with a laser. You will destroy the laser and kill everyone in the room. Yeah,
don't do it. It's bad. Okay, something about chlorine gas or other poisonous gases and stuff that will eat away the laser. Don't do it. All right. Sintra is relatively cheap, relatively inexpensive. I get mine at a local sign shop, and I want to say the 4x8 sheet that I got of 6 mil ran me about $60. And the 3 mil cost me about $40, and you can make a metric butt ton of armor.
Here's your big old fat plate. I'm probably gonna buy my own piece and then just start making weapons out of it.
Okay, so 3 mil is even cheaper. 3 mil is exceptionally easy to cut with score and snap. All right. Another material that's epic, if you can do it, is metal. Okay, eventually I want to do that. I don't have the tools. I don't have the capabilities right now, but that's on my to-do list someday for a nice like winter legacy style.
Mm-hmm. Steel is obviously going to be heavier, but you can use magnets on that. And aluminum's going to be lighter.
But the magnets won't work.
But no magnets unless you add strategically placed plates.
Yes.
Now, unless you're good with welding, don't bother.
Yep.
Unless you know a guy.
So, 3D. I'll just leave it at this. 3D printing, especially for large plates, a lot of folks are doing that for the Mandalorian style, okay? For the old school, like traditional FET and Legacy, I wouldn't do 3D printing for your armor plates, but it's great for gauntlets and great for blasters. Just acknowledge all the work that you're going to have to do at getting rid of the print lines.
It's going to take time.
Okay.
But it can look really good.
Okay. Yeah, it's the tools. It's the tools in, like for us, where we host our robotics at, they actually have laser cutters. And so sooner or later, like when we're not on, not exiled for the good of the realm and life goes back to normal, I'll probably do that because I'd love to take the templates that we've got and laser cut out
And have a full metal.
and have a full metal kit. Okay, that's in my to-do list.
Now, maybe not the full heavy, because that
No.
might be a little too much, but do a lighter variant out of metal would be really good looking.
Okay, so what material would I suggest for making melee weapons such as blades or spearheads? Not metal.
Sintra.
Sintra.
6 mil Sintra. And if you want to get a good thick one, then maybe take 2 pieces of 6 mil Sintra, put those together, glue them, and then sand them down and use a Bondo on the edge to get that seam covered. So I'm planning on making a ton of melee weapons. I'm not going for melee specialists. I just want to have knives, axes,
tomahawks, swords,
ice
whatever.
picks, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm gonna have fun with melee items. So I'm gonna do a lot of mine out of 6 mil Sintra, and I'm gonna do several pieces stacked on top of each other. So, like for example, an axe, I'm gonna do one piece for one main piece out of 6 mil, and then I'm gonna probably create 2 smaller like handles, cut those out of 3 mil, and then glue those on to get the thickness I want, because I want to have pieces layered properly.
Okay. And here was another material. So this was just a gift of a piece of scrap plastic that was at an RV factory, and a friend brought it to me. And so we cut this out with that some of those tools that I showed you from Harbor Freight. And I intentionally left in the texturing because I like the look. You could make that go away. All right. So this was something, but this is something that I feel like I could take into a con and it wouldn't get denied. A lot of cons are really, really particular about the weapons, and so
metal is a no-go, but Sintra, 6 mil Sintra, and wood are totally good.
Yep. Okay. So and
resin.
Okay. So resin's another thing. So there are options. Okay, like if you were to 3D print some stuff, whatever. And Slate, I love that stuff. You know, and Charles about like thin gauge steel car hoods, phenomenal. Like, you know, if you've got scrap stuff and you have access to it, bloody well use it. Okay, that's what we're talking about doing at our robotics places. They have sheets of this ultra thin steel.
They've got bins full of scrap, and we could probably use plenty of it to.
And so that's kind of what we're looking at doing when we go that route. Okay. But it's all a matter of what you have access to and what you don't. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I honestly don't know a lot about the steel stuff or the metal, but I'd love to learn it in time.
Metal is something we're going to be looking into for kits farther down the line, or upgrades to kits, but that's going to be in a year or two.
So now I'm going to shift and talk a little bit about helmets.
All right, and I'm going to grab your stock.
Okay. So this one here is called the Soul Seeker. All right, larger diameter PVC pipe. I know that people have used PVC pipe, and so I've never used it. I've seen it used for gauntlets. So here would be my recommendation, because I've never touched it myself. Go on to the Mandalorian Costuming Facebook group and just type up PVC and see what you get, okay? Go on to the hard armor section of the Mandalorian Mercs forums and type in PVC in the search tool and see what you come up with. I've seen people that have made immaculately, beautifully, well done, really good, smooth gauntlets and great greeblies on them out of PVC pipe. So I've simply never done it, so I can't talk intelligently. I just know that it's been done.
Yep.
Okay.
And back to helmets. So yeah, this is the
Soul Seeker.
Soul Seeker.
If you look at this and search it on the Mandalorian Merc site, you'll find this one. We got number 7, the 7th Soul Seeker in the very first run of this. This was Liam's birthday present, Christmas present.
Birthday, I think. Birthday,
okay.
Christmas.
Birthday, Christmas present.
Okay. Along with my blaster. But as you can probably see, there's a few areas like here that the Dremel got the Dremel Bliss drifted a little bit, or I held it wrong and it scratched. So I'm going to turn that into some sort of scar on my helmets. But there's areas where I kind of screwed up in the cutting of this
where I'm gonna have to spend some time to clean it up. So like in here, I screwed that up a bit.
Yep.
So I'm gonna spend some time cleaning this up. But this is a resin helmet.
This is a resin helmet. And one of the things that I recommend, so a lot of times you'll get it and this is all filled in, okay? So I like to drill, like I've done this where I've drilled pilot holes and then I've even taken a little hacksaw blade and I've done a hacksaw blade and done that by hand through there, okay?
Now, when you're doing that, make sure there's a little bit of spacing in between the edge of your helmets and what you're cutting out. So if you have like a 1/8 inch of spacing or a 1/4 inch of spacing, that way, if or more realistically, when you are off your mark, you don't go into the helmet like right here where I miss and cut into the helmets.
So we're going to have to do a little cleanup action on that, okay? But this is where the files really, really can save your bacon, okay? Because you can pop that in there and clean that edge up and
make it nice,
make it
sharp,
better, okay?
So, I'm going to spend a lot of time making sure this helmet looks nice, because this is probably a bucket I'll be using for the next
several years.
Who knows how long? Yep.
Okay.
So that's the Soul Seeker, and this. One thing about this helmet that I really like is the amount of holes. So all of these are drilled out, and this plate's going to go over here. So I got a hole here and here. When I put this on, I have almost perfect 360-degree hearing in this helmet, and I love that. I mean, someone's behind me, I can hear them, and I can tell they're behind me. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And I'm going to show you a couple other things, and then I'm going to talk about getting rid of the mold release. But this tool here is beautiful. So I love that we can actually cut out little slots in here that are going to allow the heat to come out of your helmet. Okay.
So this is going to be one of the coolest helmets temperature-wise, and I'm going to be able to hear all around me.
Yeah.
So I am so looking forward to that.
It might be hard to see. This thing actually has slots through here. And so if we work really, really carefully, we can get those slots cleaned up and you will get actual airflow ventilation through this. I adore what they've done with this helmet.
Yep.
Okay. And so even on the back here, but if you're going to do that, okay, like this, you want to put a mesh on the back side of this, like a black painted mesh, so that people can't see into your helmet. So very important to do that. Okay.
But that way you get airflow, because from what I understand, the helmet is the hottest part. Once you put your bucket on, your kit jumps in heat by about 20 degrees.
Yeah.
So if you can keep your helmet nice and cool with fans and all that kind of
and
stuff,
cross ventilation,
do it.
Okay.
So this is going to be great for a first time helmet where I get wonderful heat release from up here. I can hear. I got more heat release from here, so I can put fans here and have it circulate all the way around. So I got perfect ventilation.
Yep.
Throughout my helmet. If anything, this might be too cold.
I'd love to see that. I do believe that the Soul Seeker's probably got the best ventilation of any off-the-shelf helmet that I've ever seen.
So I'm not going to need to put in key slots in here. So, yep.
Okay. One thing, if you guys have never dealt with resin bits, and I will answer your question in a second, Charles. If you get resin bits from any vendor, it's going to have a stuff called mold release on it. Mold release is something that they spray into the mold, like onto the silicone, and it makes it so that when the resin cures, it pops off easily. But that mold release is on this. So I do believe, like Cascade, people sometimes, I believe, will throw it into the dishwasher.
That's what I did.
Okay. And literally, I think we tossed in the helmet into the dishwasher. We did not put it on heat for heated dry. Okay. But I've also used just Cascade, the powdery dish soap, and a scrubby, and I'll scrub everything down to get that mold release off, because if you don't,
when you paint it,
it will suck.
Yep.
Okay.
So also,
I'm even going to give these guys credit. They put a little metal rod through the middle of this.
So that way it won't snap when you're twisting your head back and forth.
Okay. So super duper credit to these guys. They make a nice bucket.
This isn't necessary. So this is if you decide to go without that. So that slots in right here, or this big old thing.
Okay. So, Charles, would I fiberglass the inside or reinforce it? I have never done that with any of my resin helmets. Um, if you are doing a homemade helmet, I would absolutely consider that. I have zero experience whatsoever with fiberglass. I lack the skill set. I lack the PPE. I lack the garage or the shop space to do it. So for me, fiberglass is something that I don't know nothing about, and I don't live close enough to Darth Stone, so I'm not going over to his place to work on it. So that's me. If you've got that capability, or you've got the capability within your clan, go for it.
But stick to what you know.
I stick with what I know, and personally, like, I don't. Some people, Cassidy, a girl in our clan, she made an amazing bucket, homemade, Home Depot style type of helmet. She did great. Or maybe Peppercura. Some people have done Peppercura. Okay, it's not my bag, so I've never done it. Some people do it, and
they can have beautiful helmets.
Right.
So if you're looking for a metal helmet, I believe you're going to have to do, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you're going to have to do a homemade helmet.
Yeah.
If you're going to do metal.
And there are some vendors out there that do metal helmets. So
I haven't done the research, but.
Okay. So I don't, and then the other thing is, so on helmets, there are 3D printed. Again, okay, if you want to 3D print up a helmet, God forbid, like, you're going to have a lot of
print lines.
You're going to have a metric ton of print lines you got to clean up. And the other issue that I would have with a 3D printed helmet,
where I would have to do several different pieces individually that you're going to have to
connect them, glue them.
Either you're going to have to, if you're creating it yourself in CAD, my suggestion is have design slots where you can put it in. Like, for example, I'll show you my blaster.
Then I'll answer your question about resin in a minute, Charles. Okay.
So my blaster is a 3D printed blaster. These two pieces fit together, but this would suck to have to manually put this in there, guess the right location, and then put it together. What this comes with is a little 3D printed piece that slots in here, and there's also a slot in here, so that when I finally decide to put this thing together, I put that in, I put it in here, I push it together, and then this will lock in place so I can glue it and not worry about the placements.
So Kaz Ryder did a beautiful job on that blaster. And so what I will kind of say is that with 3D printing, and here's the other biggest issue that I would have with a 3D printed helmet, is heat warping. You put that bucket in your tote, and you drive to a troop, and it's 95 degrees outside, and you're doing an outdoor summer troop, I would not want to have my helmet warp. I've had 2 of my blasters warp just from being out in the sunlight. Okay?
For paint drying.
Yeah, when I was drying it and the paint was curing, and they warped a little bit, and I had to reheat them to bend them back into place.
And actually, talking about reheating PLA, so PLA is the material you'll have to worry about most for heat warping. ABS, you're not really going to have to worry about that. And PETG, I'm not that familiar with, so I can't speak intelligently about that. But ABS, you're really not going to have to worry about heat warping. PLA, absolutely. The melting point is
higher.
For ABS, it's much higher. For PLA, printers usually around about 210.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a lot, but that's to get it where it's melting, to where it can warp. It can get, if it gets up to about 100 degrees, it will warp easily.
Yeah. So resin cast helmets, we'll grab my stalker here.
Another resin.
Okay. Now, I haven't dropped this. I don't want to drop this. But this is a good solid helmet. Okay.
But resin will shatter.
Resin can shatter, but this is a beautiful bucket. Okay. NME does a beautiful thing. I will warn you, they have some long lead times. Okay, but you will get a gorgeous helmet.
Good high quality helmet.
Inside of mine is not pretty. I've redone stuff. I've used a lot of hot glue. A new thing that I've just done is I'm holding in my visor with these clips that you use to mount your mirror, like in your bathroom. And so those are holding in the visor. And then I've got my fans, and I've got my padding, and I use a lot of different types of padding. So,
so the one thing I would be concerned about doing a full one-piece print with a helmet is that unless you have it oriented correctly, you're going to have a lot of infill. Or unless the print is designed in a way that it doesn't require it, the amount of infill you're going to have to clear out is...
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
So the thing is, if you've got it and you want to play with it, go for it. We don't have access to a 3D printer that we can do that. And
maybe, but
not really.
Not really.
And the thing is, like, I know several vendors personally, Darth Hare, Moncal, Darth Stone, and I'm a firm believer in supporting the industry. I believe in these people, and I love them. And so, for me personally, I love to buy a good quality vendor or a quality helmet from a quality vendor. And so my recommendation, if you're new, go through the forums and look at the helmets that you like, and then drop a PM to the person or ask them in their thread, hey, what vendor is that helmet? And then keep an eye on that. And so that's how I found the Stalker.
And again, before you buy, ask the hive mind.
Yes.
They will be able to go or no go, whichever helmet you're looking at, within hours of asking.
Yep.
So,
or minutes, especially if you've got the wrong one. The hive mind will tell you, nope, avoid that helmet like the plague. Okay. Common tools, we've talked about that. We've talked about the magnets and things like that. Clamps, you can't have enough clamps. Okay. Small ones, big ones, ratcheting clamps. I have these ratcheting clamps that I don't have anymore.
They disintegrated.
They disintegrated, but man, this ratcheting clamp had a ratcheting system, so you could gronk down on that, and that thing held things on beautifully. Okay?
Spring clamps are nice. Little tiny clamps like this are great for a test. So if you're testing, I want to see if this will fit properly on my kit, these little tiny clamps will work perfectly. That's how we held the shoulders on. So that's perfect for a little test, or another piece needs to be held roughly in the right position. That's what these are for. If you want to look to hold something in place for 6 hours and you want it to be tight, grab one of these. That will stay in place.
Well, like we talked about earlier, if you're doing that on Sintra, use a scrap piece of Sintra there that the clamp can push into, because that will indent into your plastic. And yep, Enemy Assassin is a fantastic bucket, okay?
Isn't the Assassin the Clone Wars looking one? I'm pretty sure that's Clone Wars looking one.
So, I will tell you, and so NME in particular has a longer lead time, okay? Acknowledge that. So if you're thinking about getting it and you've got the money, or as soon as you get the money, drop it, order that helmet. You might not hear from them for 3 months, but you will get your bucket. And it's a gorgeous bucket. Gorgeous. Okay? But the thing is that you drop that money, you put it, it's a sunk cost, you'll get the bucket when you get it, and then that will give you enough time to really finalize maybe your paint style, or to get your soft goods together, or to make your vest.
And once your helmet shows up, if you've decided on your final paint, you can do a mass blast of paint, do all of that, do all your weathering in one go, so it's consistent throughout across the board. And kind of on the topic of weathering, kind of something we were thinking about with the Shore Trooper is with that kit, think about what environment you're in. So you might have a lot more dust and gunk down on your legs because you're walking through sand, through mud and stuff. Your helmet's not going to be as dirty as your boots.
Yep.
So think about how you're moving, how you're walking. So your knees, your boots, all that's going to be filthy and have tons of mud caked into it. But your helmet isn't going to be drenched in dirt. So think about what's getting dirty the most.
Okay. And I've almost gone through everything that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to show you a little bit more on weathering on soft goods. Virtually everything that you see here was done with acrylics. And so just like Liam was talking about, I'm thinking about, okay, if I sat down or hunkered down and I got mud here, well, it's going to collect here and then on the high points.
Also, if it was raining and water got inside the pouches, where is it going to stick? it's going to stick on the bottom.
Yep. And so on darker colored fabrics, you want to use lighter colored stuff, like even on this black towel, okay? I use that lighter stuff, and that lighter paint is showing up here on the black towel.
Here's a great example of how to weather soft goods.
Okay, here.
Nice little duster. So up here, lightly weathered. But
Okay, so this is on the upper part of the duster, and you'll see even that I've got light patches to show up here, but much darker down below, because this is going to be what goes through the grime and the muck. Another very important thing on something like a duster or a comma, weather the inside. Get it on the inside, because there's nothing that looks stupider than a duster or a comma that's just filthy outside and then pristine on the inside. That's not the way that things work.
That's not the way the world works.
Okay? Weathering leather. Where did that...
Or another fun way to do it is, hey, if you're in a snow trooper or you've got a snow kits and you want to weather your stuff, next time it snows and, oh, look, there's a big old snow drift that the plow pushed in there from the parking lot, go take a dive into there and roll around in your armor in there to get it all filthy. He's got a funny story about that, too.
So, this is the second time I had the police called on me in costume. The first time was the first time I wore Boba Fett armor for a photo shoot. And that was 6 Denver police, weapons drawn. That was a fun day. The second time I had the cops called on me, my friend Tony Rich and I we did like a 7-day or 6-day build to get our snow troopers done. And we were going to do a bell ringing with the Salvation Army in the morning. And it was wintertime. It's middle of December. And we had finished our kits, and I wanted to weather it up. And I'm like, hey, let's go down and rub ourselves all over our trucks. Like put the duster into the wheel well and stuff like that. We were smart enough to leave the armor and the helmets off. And we went just in our soft goods. And we're down there, and we're rubbing our butts all over our trucks, and we're doing this and that. And we're in an apartment complex, and I lived on the 3rd floor. A lady on the 1st floor starts yelling. She's like, what are you guys doing? I'm calling the cops. I wave at her. I'm like, hey, I'm your neighbor. I live, 2 stories above you. She freaks out. Her boyfriend comes out. He knows who I am. He's like, get off the phone. Tell the cops it's okay. At this point, I know the cops are going to show up. I don't want to be there the second they drive up. So Tony and I go walking down. There was a green belt right next to the apartment complex. A green belt in Colorado is where there's a stream and, trees and junk like that. And so we're doing snow angels in the dirt right next to the creek side. And we're rubbing around in the dirt. And then we start to see flashlights around there, in the parking lot. So we walk up. Hi. I wave to the cop. Hi, we're the ones you're looking for. And I go walking up to him, with my arms in the air. He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, we're in the 501st Legion. We're an international group of stormtroopers. We're in 80 countries and territories around the world. And we just made this armor, and we were trying to get it and our soft goods dirtied up before we do a troop for the Salvation Army. He's like, you can put your arms down now. Thank you, sir. So, do it in the daytime. Don't do it at 10 o'clock at night in an apartment complex. But real world weathering can be beautiful. And that weathering on those snow troopers was awesome. And it looks
those
good.
Those kits are still in circulation today, right?
They are.
So
yeah, that just a fun story about getting weathered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what not to do.
Yeah, what not to do. We're the scraper, the wire brush.
Wire brush.
Okay. Leather always looks, I think it looks better when it's weathered. And so you can take a wire brush to it. Okay. You can take sandpaper to it. All right. And then you can take, so like this is already getting some magnificent scratching in it. And then maybe I would take a little bit more dye and put it onto it. Or different types of acrylics and put it in there and make it so the leather looks used. I'm going to break out the one the Yugoslavian one, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. That's like, 60-year-old, 50-year-old leather, and it just has such wonderful texture and patina to it.
Yep. And walking to a creek or stream for Mermando, that might be a good way to get some really, maybe to get ideas of where you need to actually weather or add your dirt.
So, Josh, going back to the Mermando, the weathering, I still think the verdigris and rusts are probably the things that I would think about the most. Just because here's the part about using, whether you're talking real dirt or other things like that, it's going to come off. Okay. And for the love of God, please make it so that you can wash your kit once in a while or Febreze it once in a while. And so
you don't want to show up to a kit that smells like sweat.
Yeah, sweat, dog do, whatever.
Armpits.
And so for salt water, what you got to think about is what would salt water look like on cloth? So maybe you do an experiment, but what I would think of is a white, crusty texture. And so maybe I would do a little experiment with that. And so
there's fabric spray paints.
Or, well, I'll get to the fabric spray paints, but here's what I'm thinking is Sand Troopers will use hairspray and then Fuller's Earth, okay? And so that's how some Sand Troopers will do that. And what I would say is maybe even use kosher salt or some type of salt like that and do a spray of hairspray and then put that salt on there and crunch it up and see if it works. Okay, I can't promise you that it will work. Practice it on some spare stuff.
Yeah, grab
and
some
see if you like it.
Grab some scrap fabric of what you want to use and do it on that. Experiments on your scraps rather than your final product, so that way if it fails epically, it's a non-issue. Oh, it's a scrap. I can throw this away and work with something else.
Yep.
So, experiments on what you're not going to use first, then try it on your final product.
Yep. So, where'd you put those
straps?
The leather straps
Back there.
Okay.
So, yep.
So these were the ones from the Sportsman's Guide, and I did put on the leather dye, the dark brown leather dye, because it matches my color palette. Okay, but I don't put it uniformly. I do it a little darker in places and a little lighter in places because I want it to look used, abused, and loved. Okay, and so. And as I do this more for the desert ops, I will put in some dirt crusting and other stuff on this. Some sand and stuff like that, because that's sort of what they require for going desert. All right. Go with what works for you. So if you're doing the Mermando, I would expect to see, if I had something like this, I'd expect to see verdigris or salt or crusties and stuff like that on there.
But
maybe leather,
maybe have it look a little bit more dried out.
Yeah. But this is what I think. Leather and salt water will destroy leather in a heartbeat. So you might want to consider more of the canvas or the ballistic nylon, because that's actually going to survive. I think about my dive knife and my dive gear used ballistic nylon. So I'd go that direction.
It's not going to be wood. It's going to be something that will survive for longer periods of time in that environment. So,
okay,
design it off of where you're going to have your kits
for your environment. Okay, if you're doing an alpine kit, then you're going to have a different style of weathering than if, let's say, you're a pilot. Then the pilot, I would expect far more grease stains, hydraulic fluid, and various fluid type of stainings as opposed to crunchy type of stainings or weathering.
Because your pilot might not have tons of blaster marks on them, but they will have just gunk.
Oil and hydraulic fluid.
Yep, vehicle gunk is going to be on their kits rather than dirt.
So, Charles, fish leather, here's what I want you to do. Okay, I guarantee you, I know for a fact that there is at least one person recently that has done an amazing Mermando on the Mandalorian Mercs forums. And drop me a line or a note on Facebook or post it up on there. And I know that if you search for that, somebody has done a couple of good ones. In fact, I think there's somebody here in Takuri Clan that did one like that. And so check it out. Like, I've been focused on the desert and the Sando, so that's the majority of my thought process
And knowledge.
and my knowledge. Okay, there are leathers, there are textured fabrics that could be phenomenal. I just don't know a thing about it. Okay, so I'd be talking out my ass if I said anything more. Okay, CK Knight, that was the dude. I knew that there was somebody that had done that thing. Okay,
Gunganite.
so check with CK Knight. His Legacy Mermando is phenomenal. Okay, so check that out. I've hit everything that was on my list of things that I thought that a new person would want to know about. Okay, and so I could keep talking out my ass. I'll just say, what questions haven't we answered yet? And I might check on Facebook just to see if there are any other messages.
And we held check marks on here.
Yeah. We talked about strap snaps, snap plates, soldering irons. And so,
Yeah.
this has been fun. I hope it's been useful for you. It's been fun to be sociable and talk story. And, for us, it feels good to actually have the armor just about done.
Yeah, his kit's almost done. Mine is going to require another 60 or 100 hours worth of work. I've got pretty much all the soft goods except for my vest done.
Mhm.
Once I get my vest, the process should speed up a lot more. And now that I actually have spare time, I don't have as much spare time as he
'Cause you're
does.
always-
Because I'm going to be going to work. I've got a weekend I requested off for a competition. But that's why I've got nothing going on right now. But
yeah,
I'm about to be super, super busy working 8-hour shifts.
Yep.
So,
He's working at the grocery store, as a bagger, and so he's out there fighting a good fight with all the hoarders. And
I'm on the front lines this time.
yeah. So, I am open for questions, and if nothing else, what we might do is we might get me re-kitted up so you guys can see that, especially for anybody that joined us later. Thanks, Kat.
Yeah.
So while we're waiting to see if anybody else drops a question, what we're doing with Liam is we kind of treat him like he's been covered in glitter when he's at work.
So I come in, I don't even get to touch the door. I just come in, come straight downstairs, dump all my clothing in the washer.
Get in the shower. He showers and scrubs down. And we're even thinking about having him leave his shoes, his outside shoes, his work shoes outside, not even bring them into the house. So that's sort of what we're doing with him being out there. And then my wife and I both full-time. I've been a full-time remote worker for 2 years. So I haven't left the house since Saturday. And I'm probably not going to leave until the crisis is over with and I just have him shop for me.
Yeah, so I'm
Where
the
he works.
grocery getter. It's certainly been interesting. Just gotta make sure to bring in the receipts every single time.
So, good kid. Who do I like better for Ahsoka, Ashley or Rosario?
Is Rosario the
Rosario for the live action. I think she'll be in The Mandalorian.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that.
I'll say this much. When Ahsoka first came out, when we did the troop that opening weekend, I was at a clone trooper, and this kid was like 8 years old in craft foam armor.
It looked good.
It looked really good. The weathering made the difference on that craft foam armor.
Half his height in a bobblehead.
Yeah, he had that Target issue clone helmet and all that stuff. But we were two clone troopers. And I hated Ahsoka at the beginning. I have grown to love her. I loved her all the way through Rebels. Mm-hmm. So I love Ashley. I'm going to give Rosario a chance. I'm just thrilled that we get to see Ahsoka live action and to see that put together. So I'm pretty thrilled. And so I think it'll be cool. Isn't that cool to see how they blended in Rebels and all that and Clone Wars, and now it's mixing into live action. So pretty spiffy.
The last few episodes of the Clone Wars have felt a little slow.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited for the Mandalorian arc at the end.
Yep.
That's something I can't wait to watch.
I'd be all over a live action Sabine. I think that'd be cool. Personally, I love the original trilogy far more than any of the other time frames. I'm loving the Mandalorian time frame. Um, what I'd love to see more than anything would be like the X-wing book series sort of done up, but like a special forces team of X-wing pilots and maybe like Han's commandos and stuff like that. Really get into the war side of things, sort of like the old show Tour of Duty. I would love nothing more than some just kick-ass watching the X-wings, and from somebody that played the original X-wing video game and X-wing versus TIE Fighter.
See the actual hit and run strikes.
Yes.
And real Star Wars dogfighting. That would be really interesting to watch.
Yeah. I would pay good money. I would re-up. Well, I already paid for 3 years of Disney Plus, but I'd pay good money to watch an X-wing series or a Wraith or a Rogue Squadron or something like that.
Or if they decided to do a Republic Commando series.
Oh, God, yes. Republic Commando, a full series of Republic Commando of just nothing but those kind of raids, and to look at the best declassified parts of what SEAL teams have done and Force Recon and all that. Oh my God, I'd pay money to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Lucasfilm, please, let's do that, please. Okay, so there you go. That's the other part of Armor Party, is talking story about Star Wars nerdy stuffs. I don't know anything about Asteroid Het. My delving into the expanded universe stopped at a certain point, and I literally never got back on the train when it came to books or comic books and stuff like that. I think it happened when Luke slept with a ghost with Callista, and I got a little bit tired of the super weapon of the month. The Death Star, version 12.0 with whatever it was.
Or something.
No, it was just the canon section of the Death Star.
What?
Yeah, or the Sun Killer and all that stuff. So there are certain things that I just never got into, but I love it that people do. And then I think it was when the book that Chewie got killed in with the Yazang Vong, like that was the last Star Wars book that I bought, and I haven't bought one since then.
Except for Hard Contact. Maybe.
Except for Hard Contact in the Republic Commando series.
Mm-hmm.
The Sun Crusher and all that stuff. So at any rate, that's me. Your mileage may vary. Some people love, the prequels or the new series or whatever. I'm an original trilogy purist.
Stick with what you love.
Yeah, I stick with what I love, and so, that's kind of the way that I play. But I'm not knocking the folks or the people or the stuff in the other, areas. That's just my bag. And so, beyond this, I'm open for any other questions on costuming, props, tools. I'll give a pan through the room here and let you guys ask any more questions, and maybe what I'll do is I'll show you some of the inspiration and things that I'm thinking about for the future. So
yeah,
I love these dudes. Okay, if I was 100 pounds lighter, okay,
that jetpack fell off. There we go.
So I can't wait to see what the Mandalorian mercs do with the new style armor and what they start allowing and all that stuff. I know that there are Facebook groups for building this. Freaking epic. Okay.
It's going to be really interesting to see how those new chests and how all that's going to work out in the post original trilogy series timeline. Yep. That's going to be really interesting to watch. And I think, like, for me, Kit 2 or 3.
Kat, good to see you. Thanks for being on. Yeah. Okay, this is another thing that this is like from Wish, so it's probably kind of janky and it keeps falling apart on me. But
his shoulder's gone.
I know his shoulder is gone. Oh. But what I love is this interconnected samurai type of stuff. I'd love to play around with that. But it's all just go with what you like. And the thing about going for approval in the Mandalorian mercs, work with your Rusalors, talk story with them, and find a way. There's usually a way, if you've got an idea, that you can make it happen. Okay, some things just won't work, but work with them and be smart and go to armor parties when you can, but ask questions of the hive mind. Okay, and again, I'm open to any other questions. We got 14 people on. Thank you all for being on. I hope this has been fun, a different type of Friday night. And I'll just give a quick pan, and feel free to ask any questions about the stuff that's here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Slade. It's been my pleasure. Welcome to my little world of mess.
Yeah. A lot of blasters. The problem I'm running into is deciding which blasters to use on my kit, because we already have too many. I have 4 blasters I can use. I have the real estate for maybe 3 of them. So it's going to be a balancing act getting it to fit right. So, thanks for sticking around, William.
Okay.
So, yeah. This has been fun.
This has been a good time. I hope it's been fun for you guys. I don't see any other questions, so we'll probably sign off. Feel free to post questions, and if we need to do this again, we can definitely do it. So,
Yeah, because we're running up on hour 3 of streaming.
yeah, we've been talking a while.
Yeah.
So, appreciate it, guys. Y'all take care. Be safe. Be smart. Keep flattening the curve, and let's get through this thing together. You know, let's be smart and be good human beings. Be good neighbors. Check out for the elderly people in your neighborhood. Don't get them sick, but if you can help them out or do a food run for them or whatever, you know, don't be a jerk. Be smart. Be a good human being. All right? We'll get through this, and may the force be with you guys. This is the way. Doop. How do I stop you?